by True North Convenience Stores, WKRK-FM, and HD1 Cleveland Heights. An Odyssey Sports Station.
92.3 The Fan, 2020 Sports.
Now, the Guardians were looking to bounce back last night in St. Louis after that 12-run loss to Atlanta on Sunday in the top of the sixth. Brian Rocchio helped breaking things open.
Launching one to deep left field and way out of here. Rocchio with home run number 2 on the season, and a 2-out, 2-run tater extends the Guardians' lead to 6-1.
That Kersey Guardians TV, good guys going to win it 9-3. Rocchio pair of hits, scored twice. Angel Martinez 2 hits, including a solo home run. Steven Kwan had 2 hits, including a 2-run single. On the hill, Gavin Williams got the start. When 5 innings, allowed 2 runs on 5 hits, he would strike out 4. Guardians made a couple of roster moves prior to the opener against the Cardinals. Guardians activated Hunter Gaddis off the 15-day injury list and outfielder George Valera off the 10-day IL. Gaddis made his season debut last night, allowed 1 run on 2 hits and 1 inning of relief to make room. Outfielder C.J. Cava sent down to AAA Columbus, and pitcher Colby Allard was designated for assignment. Cavaliers one last day off before they begin their preparations for their first-round playoff matchup against Toronto. Cavaliers back to practice tomorrow morning as getting ready for Game 1 against the Raptors. Game 1 will take place Saturday afternoon at Rocket Arena. Game 2 also be in Cleveland, but a date and time yet to be determined. Don't miss this week's episode of 92.3 The Fan's off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns tonight from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas. Up next time for the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima here on 92.3 The Fan.
Get primed for the Cavs playoffs on your ride home. The afternoon drive. Weekdays starting at 2. Cleveland's Sports Radio. 92.3 The Fan. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima.
The 1-2 is hit hard. Deep left field. Church watching it go into the seats, and the Guardians will play from in front as Angel Martinez launches his second home run of the young season. Launching one to deep left field and way out of here. Rocchio with home run number 2 on the season, and a 2-out, 2-run tater extends the Guardians' lead to 6-1. The 0-2 in the air to right. This should do it. Angel is there. Book it. The Guardians take the series opener.
Really happy with how we're doing right now. We know when we score runs, we're going to win a lot of games. So when we put up 9 runs, we know we're in a good spot, so hopefully we can keep it rolling.
This is Cleveland's Sports Radio. 92.3 The Fan.
Audio courtesy of Guardians Television and Tone Master General. I literally booked it. If you're watching on YouTube, boom, it's right there. 9-3 win.
You better.
9-3 win. Boom. Mark it down. Mark it.
So
book it, not mark it.
Yeah, book it.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good to be tied for the best record in the American League, second best record in baseball.
216-474-0092. Is Lima too cocky about the Guardians?
That's a pretty good spot to be in.
Is Lima getting too cocky about the Cleveland Guardians? Is he talking too much trash too early in the season?
Has anybody had the schedule we've had?
He barely watches. He
up to this date. You know what? I don't need to. I'm glad you point that out, Owen, because
you can set your watch to him.
I'm that confident in the Guardians. They are well on their way to yet another playoff berth. Let's go. 6-0.
So you're not going to watch them then?
They are. I did watch last night.
Well, I knew you. I figured you watched them.
They are now 6-0 when Austin Hedges is behind the plate.
Austin Hedges now is batting .350 for the season, which is down from where he was before. So this is a conversation we got to have here. Yesterday, I put out on social media because we were talking like we opened up the show with the Cavs, but we were talking about Guardians for a moment, and I said something about Tanner Bybee, and I decided to throw it out there. I go, Tanner Bybee always starts off slow. There's no reason to freak out. There were a lot of people who actually disagreed about Tanner Bybee. Now, I don't think let me make this abundantly clear. I don't think Tanner Bybee's your ace. I think Gavin Williams is your ace, and I think it's an official show stance if you ask me. I think the guy with the beard from Oklahoma in there agrees with me. And I think that you would you not agree with me there, Wizard?
Yeah, it's Gavin Williams.
Yeah, I would think it's Gavin Williams. That being pointed out, and I think, honestly, the future of your franchise is Parker Messick. If you listen to 3 seconds of this show when we're not discussing the Browns, I am very high on Parker Messick in the future with him and the Cleveland Guardians. However, when it comes to Tanner Bybee, doesn't mean to give up on Tanner Bybee. Some people, because they threw some money at him. Well, okay, because they threw a little bit of money at him doesn't mean that all of a sudden I can get rid of him. Or I think there is a little bit more pressure that's put on Tanner Bybee because there's a bit of a future there. But I think he happens to be the guy in this place. But I think at this time next year, Gavin Williams is your number one, and eventually maybe Parker Messick is your number one, or their number one, number two. And really, it's a ceremonial thing. I understand that. I mean, the days go by and guys get skipped and guys get put in and things like that. I get that. But if we're talking about an ace and a number one, I think that Gavin Williams would be your guy had it not been for his injury past. And I think that Parker Messick's the future of your franchise there. What? Yes.
Maybe it's just that, and Owen, you'll bring this up. Well, Lima, you don't really live and breathe baseball on a minute-by-minute basis, inning by inning, the way that some people do. But is this kind of a dumb question? What does it matter on April 14th, who your ace is?
Well, because I think you go...
Doesn't it seem awfully early to be really concerned about it?
I don't think so. I think that always, when you have a number one out there, it gives you confidence. It's almost, for the general fan, I think your point... I'm not ripping you because I think your point is we've discussed that before. It's like, hey, once you get past opening... Like when Tanner Bybee was out last year with the food poisoning at the beginning of the season, it's like, man, he doesn't get to be the opening day starter. But after opening day, it's like, well... You kind of throw until you get to the postseason, then you kind of throw your hands in the air as the week goes on or the year goes on. However, I do think it's kind of a feeling for fans of where their hope or their confidence is going into every game. Like if you're facing a number one, like there's some guys, even if they're not a number one anymore, their legend precedes them, their name's there. You still want to see them. There's still respect that's given. A Verlander, if you will, right? But, like, if you have a guy who's a clear-cut number one for your franchise, and we've had him before, you feel better about going into that night's game. Or if you happen to be, like, in the rubber match of a series, or if you're in, like, hey, we got to get one out of this series. We got to get going here. I mean, we've lost 3 in a row, and this is not good. We got to get a win here. And it's like, okay, we got our number one going. All right, we better have a chance to get this done. Or if you don't, then it's going, well, hell, now we're in a little bit of trouble here, and a losing streak becomes a funk, and some people are upset. So it still plays, even though I think you're right, I still think it plays a mind game with the fan, because like Tanner Bybee has not done exceedingly well to start this season. ERA's at 6.38. He hasn't done exceedingly well. The other night was an abomination of pitching, okay? When he goes out again, I think there's going to be a lot of folks, hey, even though it's April and I'm not losing my mind, I think a lot of people are going to be thinking, well, put up or shut up time, because if he goes out there and he gets flamed again, I think that we're going to have ourselves conversations the next day. Like, I think that that's kind of how fans are, which would be last Sunday, so he'd be, Friday, Saturday, somewhere in there. So, I mean, we wouldn't have a chance to discuss him probably, but the fans will, and we will that night. Online, wherever, with our friends.
Like Sunday, he couldn't get his fastball by anybody, it would seem, and he has been slow out of the gates. It's just, man, if there's one thing that I feel like as a sports fan in Cleveland, pitcher, Guardians, rotation, like you're not gonna get me to panic in April.
No.
Like if it were quarterback, Browns, any month of the year. They haven't necessarily, they haven't earned the reputation. So I just, that's where I'm at right now on them. That's why I just think it's so early. And then what's the alternative? What are you going to do? What?
Well, there's not much you can do. Your rotation is your rotation.
Like
you got to hope that they don't get hurt.
Gabe Arias, at the initial start of the season, and obviously the injury made the decision for you, whatever. But you start to look up and down and you think who you could plug and play and who you could platoon. And then, you look at righty-lefty stuff. But when it comes to a starter, like you said, somebody that got some money that's in your rotation, I just think you got to wait it out a little bit.
And this is where I'm at. You've played 17 games, and maybe I'm soft pedaling it a little bit too much because I know there's people who want hard at. I'm like, guys, I'm not a Mets fan. I mean, I actually don't mind the Mets because I like Mr. and Mrs. Met. One reason for obvious reasons.
Mrs.
Probably my favorite mascot other than Slider.
Yeah.
Power rank
the
your
Mets.
Oh, the Mets? All right, number one with a bullet, Mrs. Met. There's honestly, she's like one, and then you can just end the list, to be honest with you. But if we're going to do this, number two,
Keith Hernandez.
Oh. Number three,
saying.
Tom Seaver, R.I.P.
Okay. No Doc Gooden, no Darryl Strawberry. Interesting.
It depends if we're celebrating.
Just didn't go very well.
We're celebrating a championship.
Name your Mets after the game.
I like animals, so I can't say Kevin Mitchell. Sorry. I read that story. Didn't like it.
No.
Yeah. But no, Mrs. Met, number one with a bullet. They played 17 games, so you're not going to get a lot. Because I'm like, man, we're like, okay, Manzardo, people are upset about Manzardo. I'm like, well, Manzardo will eventually climb out of it. I know we're excited to see George Valera up in the bigs, and I think that he'll make a bit of a difference there, and that might change some things in the outfield. But, like, okay, is Angel Martinez always going to be a slugger for you? Probably not, but it's nice to see him contribute. Daniel Schneemann is playing his ass off at different positions there. Brian Rocchio's a try-hard guy. I can't bring myself anymore to say terribly nasty things about Brian Rocchio. Right now, it's just, and this is the beginning of the season, it's just a likable group of players.
Well, he's batting the same as Jose Ramirez.
And obviously no one's going to say anything nasty about Jose Ramirez. The guy's the franchise, for crying out loud. So you go up and down the list, and it's just like there's not a lot I can say that I'm going to be nasty about for this entire lineup, this entire franchise yet. Like, there's nobody that gets me so pissed that I can't even see straight here. Like, there's been years in the past where it's been that way. I mean, unfortunately, and this is not a popular opinion, I was that way with Casey Blake back when we were younger, not kids, but back when we were much younger men. Like, I was that, and that's a strong thing to say to a certain fan base out there, because there were people who definitely loved Casey Blake. I was that way with him. I was that way with Aaron Boone. I was that way with a couple other players that ended up playing for the Guardians or Indians back in those days. Like, that's the way it was. This, I don't know. It's just too early for me to have any sort of a against any one of these guys, because they all seem to contribute in some certain fashion. And so, like, Rocchio's an easy punching bag for a lot of people, but he plays his ass off every day. He's just not as good as some of the middle infielders that we've seen in Guardians/Indians history.
Well, how about the last 7 games for Martinez?
He's been fantastic.
12 hits. He went from 143 to 319.
And everybody...
He's like Max Strus. He is all-time streaker.
And home runs are home runs. They're fantastic. But I think that there's just a lot of effort that I see from them that I think if you're looking around the league, you're not necessarily seeing it right off. You don't necessarily see it every year with a lot of these other teams. And so you see it with them. And so when I know that, like, there's so many times where it is what it is. Like, I might get upset about Paul Dolan about it. I might get upset about the front office about it. But in so many ways, like, this is the best that they have, and the best that they have is a pretty good ball club. So it's very hard for me to be nasty and critical about many of these players. Like, I really can't think of somebody that I can't find the bright spot with this club. And I understand it's early, and we're in a honeymoon phase at the beginning of the year. But still.
So they faced basically a murderer's row, and then finally they have a series, against St. Louis where you can have some expectations, even though they've rolled off some wins too. But normally their offense, like, it seems like every year they find a way. Even though last year they buried themselves and they were so deep, so behind the pack to start the year, having to come from 15.5 back in July. But this year, like, they're actually producing. I look at it's just a few numbers. These are not the advanced numbers, because the advanced numbers, they're hovering around middle of the road to slightly below in slugging and on-base percentage, on-base plus slugging. But they are 10th in home runs and 13th in walks. When is a Guardians team, those two things, I mean, everybody reached last night. So when is a Guardians offense in the last however many years, even at the end of the Tito run and the start of the vote run, when have they ever showed that kind of production this early in the season? So you're working pitchers. You're making them think. Guys, you actually have to pitch around a little bit. They didn't even have Chase DeLauder in the lineup last night.
It's that different approach. I'm telling you, there's something like I know.
And then when Hedges,
we always want to hammer hitting coaches when the hitting isn't good, but let's call it what it is. I mean, Grant Fink was sitting there talking about. We played some. I brought this up. I don't know if I brought this up on the air. I know I shared this on social media. Like, we have a boatload of audio back there, and for whatever reason, the phone, I was just going over some of the stuff. This is like 2 months ago. And I heard a thing from spring training about Grant Fink sitting there talking about Austin Hedges, his approach over the last 2 off seasons, and you just kind of, it goes through one ear and out the other, but then you hear then you see what Austin Hedges does, and you go, oh my God, he was talking about that. Now, he might have just been saying nice things about the guy, but you can tell Hedges' approach of the plate is so much better and so much different than where it's been since we've ever known Austin Hedges. I mean, there was a point. I was texting Brad Hamilton, Tom Hamilton's son. I'm just name dropping over here now. He works out in San Francisco now, Brad does. He's fantastic. He worked at Fox 8, now he's at a TV station in San Francisco. And Brad was saying,
congratulations on all your success.
Yeah,
he's doing fantastic. Good for him. Good for Brad. Good for Brad. It's 3 a.m. out there. He's not listening to this. And Brad would say, he's like, hey, man, because, he played college baseball. He knows baseball. He's going, this guy they thought he was going to be a big slugger, big hitter when he was working his way up through the minors, and he got to the majors, and he got bad habits. It never actually took flight, and now he's kind of going back 10 years into his career. It's kind of going back to basics and relearning it, but the approach has been so much better. He's not chasing some of the things that he used to chase before, and his approach has been better. And I'm talking about a guy who didn't get a hit yesterday on the lineup. Like, you got a guy like, again, Rocchio, who ends up hitting a home run yesterday. I can't say anything bad about a guy who's sitting there trying to do it right that is a favorite of Jose Ramirez because he is patterning himself after Jose. I can laugh, and I did laugh when he mentioned how he wants to play like Jose Ramirez because we all want to, yeah, I'd like to drop 100 pounds and run a marathon myself personally, but I'm still not going to rip the guy for being a capable ball player and doing it the right way. He might be a placeholder for us, ultimately, but I can't rip the guy for doing it the right way and coming up in moments where, yeah, he helped this ball club. Brian Rocchio's helped this team. So there's a lot of positive there that, I mean, you're 10-7, it's hard to be negative, but there's so much there.
Jose Ramirez has not found himself yet at all. Exactly the point.
And wait till they feast on some of the bad teams that they're going to be playing.
So I last night, an exciting win and way to get that terrible taste out of your mouth from the Sunday Night Baseball loss that apparently we didn't make a big enough deal about because there's a lot of people who feel like John brought it up. There's a lot of people who apparently feel that they have a bugaboo about nationally televised games.
Or they're just going up against Chris Sale.
It's another good point.
It's pretty good.
Coming up at 8:20 this morning, Nick Barlage, CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Monsters, and Rock Entertainment, going to join us in studio as the Cavs begin their postseason run. Danny Cunningham going to join us on the phone coming up at 7:20. Host of Locked On Cavs, covers the Cavs, talks about the Cavs, lives and breathes the Cavs. And speaking of the Cavs, what do Cleveland fans really know about pressure? You're going to call this a hot take. Let me explain myself. We have to see it from a different perspective in 5 minutes on The Fan.
Hats. Rally House is your home for outrageously authentic Guards gear, on-field hats, jerseys, and apparel straight from the source. Level up your fandom in a Rally House store or at rallyhouse.com.
Don't trust anybody with your Cavs playoff coverage unless they have sports in their name. We are Cleveland's Sports Radio, 92.3 The Fan.
Back on The Fan. Stop it. You knock it off right now.
I wish we did that on the air. That's one of the most delicious things that we've done.
We will after. Yeah. June 13th and 14th or whatever. 15th, because that's the Monday after. We'll do it. We can't do it until then, though. All right, coming up at 7:20 this morning, Danny Cunningham going to join us on the show. All right, what do you know about pressure? Who's got the most pressure on the Cavs going into the postseason? I've heard a lot of different answers. Now, I'm going to give you two different answers. I want an answer from you guys. 216-474-0092. Who has the most pressure? Because I don't know if there's any one particular answer, and I got to give two. I think I could give another. I think there are people who, and it's not, I mean, guys, it's not that many people, but I think there are people, and I think one of them works here at the station. I think there's a lot of pressure on Anthony Lima going into this postseason.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm serious because, I mean, you have been, like, I have agreed with you, but you have been the one to take the reins. I've just been riding shotgun with you as you have just aimed and fired at everybody who dare question how good the team is. I mean, methods, things like that, but that the team's not good or that the team's garbage and these guys are not worth anything. You know, we've heard some wild things from fans.
My whole life has been defined by the NBA playoffs and how awesome they are. And if you guys poo-poo this, I'm going to take a baseball bat to anything the Browns or Guardians ever do again. Mark my words.
That was last week. It was last week you said that. And it's kind of turned into a personal thing where I kind of want to look at Nick and go, hey, you're still a Cavs fan. I know you want to get Lima, but you still want your team to win, don't you? Like, you still want that to happen. Because it's kind of turned into a vendetta. And I think that you have a lot of pressure on you because you've written a lot of checks for this basketball team. So I think there's a little bit of pressure on you from outside things. But when it comes to the actual Cavs and things that count, I think there's multiple answers here. It's just who has the most of it.
So I come around and I come back to Donovan Mitchell. And the reason it's Donovan, and we'll go over other names and what is at stake.
You beat me to it, but I think I'm going to have a different reason, but go ahead.
Yeah, because the stakes are obviously high for a number of people, but I don't want to bog it down. I want to just get to Donovan. And, you know, I heard they played some Zach Lowe yesterday, and Zach Lowe talked about how they've been, you know, to eight different postseasons so far, Donovan Mitchell teams. And some of those have been one seed. Some of those have led the NBA in point differential. You know, last year, obviously, Donovan helped lead a Cavs team. It wasn't just him. Obviously, you need a lot of help to get to 64 wins. But, you know, they gave people in this city reason to believe. And because that team flamed out in spectacular fashion in the second round, look at how tough it's been for their reputation to recover. And for many fans, people on this station, they have not recovered. They even made a defining move. They even altered the core.
Yeah.
And fans are like, no, doesn't matter. They finished the season strong. I know they beat a lot of tanking teams, but they finished the season strong without any of their lineups. Like, they barely had their core lineups, what you would call their reconfigured core. They haven't played them. But when they've played, all the numbers are very promising. They've trotted out, when they have their guys healthy, they've trotted out lineups that have been at the top of the NBA. Nobody cares. And so that's the damage of another stunted playoff run. And so, yes, the stakes are immense. Jobs are going to be on the line. Whether or not they have to pivot off this core, including Donovan Mitchell, that is on the line. And that's why we talk about legacy so much in this league. And so much of what we do in the NBA is about getting to at least the conference finals and then the NBA finals. Donovan Mitchell is like one of the great players in the league, and he hasn't sniffed the conference finals. So the pressure is on.
I think that nationally, you are 100% right. But I think there's two answers here. I think nationally, it's Donovan. I think with his career, I think it's Donovan. And let me tell you why. It goes with what you're saying, and let me extend it a little bit further. he has been in the crosshairs for a lot of national pundits out there about how far he can take a team. And I think that Donovan finds himself right now, and some fans are going to get upset by hearing this, but you guys know this is the truth. Donovan finds himself right now in the crosshairs of his career. Are you a number one or are you a helper? One of the two. And not every. And there's so many guys in this league who tell themselves they're number ones. James Harden told himself he was a number one. And it's very, very hard to be a number one at that body. Okay. A lot of things have to happen for you. Like, there's only been a few guys that size who can be a number one. There's like Dwayne Wade, and then there's Steph Curry, and everything else. Like, I'm sure there's a couple more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. Guys who would win a championship as a number one, right? I think Donovan is at a crossroads of where his career is going to be. Because if he wants out after this, if it doesn't go well, you're going to be a number two. You're going to be a big helper instead of the cornerstone of a franchise.
Okay, real
Nationally,
quick,
I think that's the truth.
Not only
with him.
that, they made this trade. They made this trade to align with the window of Donovan Mitchell. And so if you flame out after having made that trade and gotten 10 years older at that position, and then you're committing to paying James Harden, holy cow, it looks like a disaster.
You're a big Zach Lowe fan from The Ringer, right? Zach Lowe had this to say. I think he might agree with us.
I just think he's had a fascinating career. He's made the playoffs every year of his career and has never made the conference finals. And it's not on him. People say, like, he's never made the conference finals. His teams have never made the conference finals. He's had some great series. He's had some clunkers. His teams, particularly in Utah, both Utah and Cleveland, have had some, like, pretty epic flameouts. Donovan Mitchell's the guy I trust the most of Cleveland's best players. Like, I expect him to be great in the playoffs. He's been great in the playoffs. He's been at times like the only Cavalier you felt you could count on in the playoffs. But it's just like, I kind of want to see him make a run longer than he's been, because he's been such a consistently great player. And it's a crossroads pick for me also, because if they disappoint in the playoffs again, they've already traded one of these guys. He's not a flight risk anytime soon. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, there just comes a point, if you just lose too many times too early in the playoffs for what your pedigree should be, it just starts to go sideways a little bit. And I think Cleveland is kind of nearing that point. And Donovan Mitchell, I want to see a deeper playoff run. That's all.
I also think if it doesn't happen this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on another team next year. I think we both agree. If something bad happens to this team in one of the first two rounds, I'm prepared for any outcome with any guy in that roster.
It's hard to disagree with any of that. Again, audio courtesy of The Ringer, hearing from Zach Lowe. I think that is the narrative that we have to pay attention to nationally. I think locally it's Evan Mobley. I think to Cavs fans, I think it's Evan. Because part of that is going to be with us. We've been saying that Evan is the next big thing. We're saying that he could be a 1%er. I think it's because we drafted him. And also, I mean, you brought this up yourself in criticism of him. He is not Victor Wembanyama. Okay, he is not. And I know that Chet Holmgren's had a little bit of an up and down go of it, but he's not Chet Holmgren. And so when you put those names with him, and I would say, both of these guys were more heralded, more well known before they came out. I don't think that matters to a fan. So I look at a national perspective of it, and I think of a local perspective of it. Because if it can't get done, I think a lot of it's going to have to center around Evan because of what Zach Lowe just said. I count on Donovan Mitchell to have a good series, no matter who he's playing against. And if that ends in Boston, against Boston, I think so.
He will feast against the Raptors.
And I think you're right about that. But I think with these three series that they're about to embark on, and hopefully a finals, we'll see where it goes, I expect him to play exceedingly well in the first two. I expect there to be some issues in the third one, but I still expect him to be playing at his very best. We've only seen, one game against the Knicks that we can remember off the top of our heads that he's really struggled in. I know that he's had some struggles on how he was going to mix Darius in and things like that, but I just don't see clunkers coming from him.
If he has a clunker, he'll follow it up with a 45-point virtuoso performance.
Yes. So I think nationally, from the outsider's perspective, you can not like the message that's being sent, but I can't say it's wrong. So I think that the most pressure on this team resides with Donovan. Because if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and say they lose in 6 games, I'm sure we're going to have, this is the NBA, guys. We're going to have to deal with rumors. We're going to have to deal with, I'm sure somebody's going to say something, and we're not going to like it about Donovan not being happy or something like that. Who knows? If they get to the Eastern Conference Finals and they lose in 6 games or 7 games or whatever, I'll probably end up like Kevin Bacon in Animal House. I'm going to tell everybody to calm down and relax, and things might be going nuts around me.
Good luck,
because
right?
I want to extend this for at least one more year. I understand that this is going to come to an end sooner than later. I get that. But I want to extend it at least one more year, and I'd like to have a full offseason of James Harden and Donovan Mitchell before we finally all part and go our separate ways. But it's going to be hard to make that argument if you lose in the first or second round.
Of course. And obviously, there are going to be so many rumors about both Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell at that point that's going to be really, really tough. Because, your window is your window, and there is... we talk about like proof of concept. Like there was never a proof of concept that Darius, and some of it was just unlock. The lack of luck when it comes to Darius, like in his injuries, but also even when he was healthy, he wasn't authoring up a bunch of big playoff games.
No.
And so eventually the Cavs said, we can't rely on him. He's going to be banged up. His style of play once we get into the postseason, so we're going to move on from him and take on somebody with James Harden, who has a lot of negatives in the playoffs too. But one thing he has been able to do, he has been able to fill it up. He's had monster games, monster series, and he's lost to a lot of teams that were great. He's lost to championship teams. He's lost to teams that have gone to the NBA
player
Finals
altogether. Yes.
And he's been the superior player. Donovan, we're getting to the point where if he can't get him, if it's a team thing, but if he can't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, he might have to close the door on being able to build a team around Donovan and think you can compete for the NBA championship.
I think if they can't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, at least. I mean, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are very difficult to get past. If you can't get around the Eastern Conference, you can't get to the Eastern Conference Finals at least. I think there's
with this bracket.
With this bracket, with this team, how you've set this up, we might hear rumors about Donovan, and I think some Cavs fans might go, you know what? Fine. I really do. And the other part of it is that I think Donovan might have to come to a realization here maybe that you're not a number one. You're not going to be getting any younger. Maybe it's time to be that passenger instead of that driver. I don't want to get there yet, though. I still want to see where this can go, and I still want to see it for another year. So that's why it's so important for me to get to a series against the Boston Celtics and to win a couple of games in that series. 216-474-0092. Who has the most pressure on them going into the postseason with the Cleveland Cavaliers? There's a lot of different answers. I don't know if there's one in particular that everybody says, absolutely, that's the guy. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, and it's hard to say goodbye, even if it's the smart move.
When equipment breaks down and operations come to a halt, every single second counts.
My Reset. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Ohio.
In your weeknight with the best segments of the day. The Fan Rewind. Weeknights at 11.
Danny Cunningham going to join us in about 40 minutes. We'll talk Cleveland Cavaliers with him also coming up at 8:22. Nick Bartlett going to join us on the show. Jeff Thomas, the Pink Tornado, 8 a.m. in studio. We have a major announcement with him. Jeff is one of the finest, a major station announcement that you have to hear, especially because if you're an early riser and you're listening to this and maybe you started listening since 6 and maybe you've been listening before that, this is all I'm going to say. So I'm going to say I don't want to let cats out of bags or anything like that. I think you're going to be a very happy person. If you are an early riser and you listen to before this show and you listen to the first hour of this show, I think you're going to be a very happy person when the Pink Tornado comes in here at 8 o'clock this morning. That's where I will leave it. Who has the most pressure on the Cavs? 216-474-0092. I'm going to get to this clip here coming up in a moment from Dan Graziano because it's hard to say goodbye, even if it might be the smart move to say goodbye about a certain somebody. But when it comes to pressure for the Cavs, I just think it's a very hard. It's almost easier to answer who doesn't have pressure. Like, I don't think James Harden has a lot of pressure. He might have a lot of pressure from some of the national media because they might have it out for him, considering what's happened here over the last 13 years with James Harden. But I don't think he has that much pressure on him. I don't think that.
Well, James is the funny thing about James Harden is I just think his career, his legacy has kind of been written, right? And nobody really expects anything to dramatically change with James. It would be interesting if the Cavs made like an NBA Finals run and James was instrumental in that, was like a big part.
That's true.
He can improve his legacy.
Yeah.
I don't think James's legacy can be negatively impacted at this point.
Unless he goes out there and he turns in like an Andrew Bynum and throws the ball against his own backboard or something like that.
We know James is not, at this stage, you're not building a championship team around him.
No.
And as a number 2, because he's had seasons where he's kind of been the second guy, and it was looking promising in Brooklyn before he got injured, and he injured his hammy. It was looking really, really promising as kind of like a number 2-ish, number 3-ish guy, but unfortunately he got injured, so we never got to see that bear out. And then with Kawhi, Kawhi could never stay healthy. So it wasn't like we know James isn't. You're not building a championship team around James, especially at 37.
Now, at one point, I think Jared Allen was public enemy number 1 for maybe being a little bit too honest. But I think that he's a guy that if you look at his contract, he's outplayed his contract. I hate that his knee's a bit banged up, but I think he's just being honest.
Now. Like this is going to be something to pay attention to, because we know. I don't know if this is getting too in the weeds, but like when it comes to Jared Allen, I think he's been pretty vocal about what he won't do in terms of pain management, something that a lot of athletes do that he will not do. And we'll see if he changes his mind because he's already really, really laboring with that knee.
Knee's a little different than it was the rib cage area.
Yeah.
A little different. Get some Tiger Balm.
I mean, he might feel that it's easier to run than it is when it's easier to not breathe. I have no idea what's going through the man's head. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. Some people were obviously critical of that a couple years ago. I stood where it's like I can't make him do things he doesn't want to do, but there's going to be judgment. J.B. Bickerstaff judged him of it. I mean, you are expected 100%. To give in to the team, and that did not sit well. But I think that he's been fantastic with this team this year. Again, he's outperformed his contract. He's outperformed the money that he makes. And when James Harden got here, he became really lethal against teams that they were playing against. So I don't know if there's much for Jared Allen. I think we've turned our attention towards Evan Mobley. I think we've turned the national media has their attention on Donovan Mitchell. I think maybe there's some with Kobe Altman because if they don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe Kobe Altman's gone. Dan Gilbert's a person that does not sit well with patience, and I think that
they had a $60 million tax this year.
Yeah.
Being in that second apron, they were the only team that ended up finishing the season and kind of going wire to wire in the second apron. So, there are consequences when you go all in the way that they have financially. There tend to be consequences in sports for most managerial positions.
There is probably pressure on Kenny Atkinson because of the same thing. Now, I defend Kobe Altman because it's like some of the stuff. Now, there's been things that he's done that obviously I think that you look back and go, yeah, I'd rather not do that or rather not do this. But when it comes to like having to trade for Donovan, having to trade for James Harden, there's things that you just have to do. And I think he did those things. So I'll defend him to that degree. But I think that the guys that have the most pressure on them locally, I think is Evan. Nationally, I think is Donovan Mitchell. Dan Graziano was on Get Up. Now, we're going to get back to the Cavs coming up at 7:22. We got Danny Cunningham joining us on the show. Dan Graziano was on Get Up. We played this late in the show yesterday. Here is a different twist to the saga that will not end, considering number 95.
Dan, is there any reason to believe the Cleveland Browns will entertain trading Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett?
There is not. I think there's a lot of people out there that wonder why not, considering what you could probably get for him. But the Browns have been steadfast and adamant that they have no interest in trading Myles Garrett. Even last year when he was publicly asking for a trade, they said that, gave him a new contract. I think it's more likely that Myles Garrett gets another contract bump from the Browns this offseason than gets traded.
You mean, does he mean this summer? Again, audio courtesy of Get Up. Did he mean this summer when he says this offseason? Maybe he does. Maybe he just insists on being the highest paid defensive end every single year. Maybe that's the case.
Right, does he have the leverage to do that now, too, right?
I'm sure. I mean, gosh, if you have your own no trade clause, who's to say you don't? I mean, if they really do not want to trade you whatsoever, then, yeah, you have all the power. It seems that you would have all the power in the world, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I have the numbers in front of me. It's funny how they parse this out because you have your total value, but as we know, it's more about the guarantees. And the average annual value, always comes up. But he got passed up by Micah Parsons, who's at $46.5 per year. Aiden Hutchinson, $45 per year. TJ Watt at $41 per year. And he is at right now $40 per year. The fully guaranteed, too, those other guys got better full guarantees than he did because the minute he signed kind of changed the market. That's what these contracts all tend to do. So, he has a case. Like, if you're the Browns and Myles Garrett says, yeah, I'm not, and if he does it like very quietly, too, and privately, like, hey, guys, I know about last year and I went crazy with the request, and then you signed me to the contract, but then I had the year I had, and other guys, ended up getting paid more than me per year, and their fully guarantees were better. Can you handle that? Because I'm probably not going to show. Like, not just to the voluntary stuff. We're talking, like, I'm not showing up in training camp until that changes.
I think I know your answer.
What would the Browns say? Like, would the Browns say, we're going to call your bluff? Okay.
Well, then if he sits out camp, that's $50,000 a day.
And
now I know that they have the right to waive that as a franchise.
Yeah, and he says, okay, like, you need me more than I need you.
Well, see, does he not
have all that leverage?
But if he's sitting out, then you know what the fan base is going to start thinking. And the fan base is already halfway there, I think. So let me ask you this. Would you rather give him a raise this summer, or would you rather trade him? Which one would you rather do?
Yeah,
you don't have to give your answer right now.
No, I mean, you know my answer. I if I'm getting first round picks in 2027, I'm doing it.
I don't think it's that easy, and I'll explain it in 5 minutes why on the Fan with Danny Cunningham at 7:22.
entertain trading Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett?
There is not. I think there's a lot of people out there that wonder why not, considering what you could probably get for him. But the Browns have been steadfast and adamant that they have no interest in trading Myles Garrett. Even last year when he was publicly asking for a trade, they said that, gave him a new contract. I think it's more likely that Myles Garrett gets another contract bump from the Browns this offseason than gets traded.
Audio courtesy a Get Up on ESPN. 20 minutes away, we got Danny Cunningham joining us on the show. We'll talk Cavs with him. Nick Barledge going to join us 8:20 this morning. CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Monsters Rock Entertainment. Also, Jeff Thomas. He's going to join the show 8 o'clock. Major station announcement with Jeff. Folks, you are not going to want to miss it. Take us with you to work on the free Odyssey app. Listen to us on 92.3 The Fan on the regular radio. And, of course, watch us on YouTube. It's absolutely free. You can see my great big fat sourpuss right here in your camera. It's wonderful. So I don't think it's that easy. We asked, would you rather give Myles a raise? Would you rather trade him? You said the answer is easy for you. You said trade him. Because you can get, yes, I think after the draft, like you had somebody text you like, I'll be waiting around until June comes around there. I'm like, oh, God, here we go. Because I tell you what, if they ended up taking like a David Bailey or a Reuben Bain at number 6 overall, which I understand there's other conversations to have now about Reuben Bain. If you ended up taking one of those guys, you would it would be right there on the wall going, well, what are you doing? It's like, well, you're going to take the best overall player. Now, that's how they're going to explain it, but the question's going to be there, and it's going to be asked and asked and asked. You said that Myles has a bunch of leverage. Keith texted us, the boss, said he doesn't think that he has a bunch of leverage. I disagree with Keith because I think Myles would be like, hey, it's a zero-sum game. You either have me or you don't. You can find me anything you want. I can just not show up.
Well, think about
and you're going to waive it when I do show up because this is how this goes.
Think about what a dagger to the new head coach that could be, to Andrew Berry, to everybody involved. That any progress you think you might be making with last year's draft, this year's draft, he could throw a wrench into all of that if he wanted.
If he really wanted to raise hell.
By the way, last year he did really want to.
Yes.
Because he caused a firestorm at the Super Bowl.
Exactly. If he really wanted to raise hell, he does know how to raise hell. So
he's an NBA player at this point.
I don't think you're right.
On a football team.
And I don't think it's that easy. Like, it's not as easy for me to say just trade him. The smart thing would say, hey, would you rather give him a raise or would you rather trade him? And I'm thinking, gosh, there's so much here where I think in the morning, like if you traded him at night, I think in the morning people would start to rectify. It's just you've made some of these changes, and I cannot stress this enough, guys. You torpedo people you've put in positions of prominence. You torpedo their careers by making that trade. If you were to trade this guy in June, or like when we brought up Micah Parsons' trade last year, that had a chance, but they had a better football team overall, the Cowboys do, than what the Browns do. Your defense was the only thing you had going last year, and you won games with defense. I mean, there were times you're playing against your own offense, frankly. That's how bad your offense was. You trade this guy, like, that's it for this season. That's it. And honestly, if you trade this guy, that's not just it for this season. Andrew Berry's a lame duck. You might as well pack your boxes now because you're not going to win many games. Are you really going to say that he's going to have a job going into 2027? Probably not. And then, frankly, like we've done a lot of hemming and hawing and wringing our hands over Todd and Monken. I might as well get a list ready for 2027 as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, let's be serious about this, guys.
That'll be a lead indicator of a potential one and done.
And I don't want to be overly dramatic about it, but you guys know this damn well. You guys know this better than I do. Like going into an off-season or going into a training camp, if you were to move on from him and you could get all these picks for 2027, and in the grand scheme of things, for the Browns fan who's just out there just wanting this team to be better, there's a lot there that would tell you, yeah, that it's the smart move to do. You haven't won much with Myles Garrett. You can win more with other players. You can get more players. Myles Garrett's don't just fall off trees. That's why you're talking about 3 first-round picks for a guy like him. He is a easy, surefire first-ballot Hall of Famer. He is the greatest player you've ever had on defense with a bullet. He is, without a doubt, one of the greatest Cleveland Browns, one of the 2 or 3 greatest Cleveland Browns to ever play the game. And part of that's just because I'm trying to be respectful to history. It's easy for me to have seen Myles every single game and say he's number 1. I didn't get to see Jim Brown. I didn't get to see Otto Graham. So I say he's amongst them because I didn't get to see the dominance. that all pointed out, yeah, you can get better, but think about what you do to your fan base. Think about what you do to the people that you've hired to put in position to make this team better. And I understand that Andrew Berry's had 5 previous years before this year, 6 previous years before this to make this team better. And I know that he's faltered in so many ways, including the Deshaun Watson trade, which that you and I know that he gave the idea first. It's not as easy as just trading him for picks. And I know there's plenty of people out there probably saying, yeah, it is, Kenny. No, it's not. It's not. You see this malaise that's around this football team with this fan base. And there's so many, like we talk about the Guardians, so many guys on the Guardians, just likable. Now it's April. They're just likable. The Cavs, you and I are kind of beside ourselves because I'm like, there's plenty to like about Jared Allen. There's plenty to like about Evan Mobley. There's plenty to like about Sam Merrill and Max Strus and Donovan Mitchell and But people are like, hey, it's been 4 years. Let's go. It's time to, or get off the pot. But when it comes to the Browns, it's just a lot of dour faces of, we don't really have a quarterback. We're fighting over these quarterbacks that probably aren't the future of this football team. How much time are we going to waste with this? And then we're talking about building a new stadium, getting things ready for the future. Well, what about the now? And then you're talking about trading the player of the generation and arguably the best player that's ever played in a Browns uniform. We're talking about trading this guy for what? For more ideas? We've had 2 first-round picks before. We took Brandon Weeden and we took Trent Richardson in a draft before. Like, I have to see it from what a fan would see, where I understand I got a new shiny stadium coming here in about 3 years. I got to put people in the seats in this stadium still. I got to get people to come along with me now. I just can't ramp this thing up and hope that people are going to trust me with all the things going on in the stadium starting in 2029. No. You want to be good by the time you get into the stadium. The whole runway of, this is all lead up to 2029. If they're thinking that way, and I can't guarantee they are or they aren't, I think that's a terrible way to think.
Well, they probably are thinking about it.
You need to have some success before you go into the new building.
Yeah, but I don't think they think it's paramount to have that success this year. I don't think
it might not be this year, but damn.
It's not like they're a contender and they need to do it all this year. I think they thought last year's rookie class is the start of that, which was absolutely mandatory. They had to nail a draft class. And it looks like they are on their way.
You'd be fired if they didn't.
Year one, it looks like they did that last year. And obviously, draft capital this year, are they towards the top of draft capital in this year too?
Yeah, they got 9 picks.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a big year. But they knew they couldn't fix this in 1 year. And unfortunately, there's no quarterback in this year's draft.
Understood.
They're not at number 1.
Totally
they're not
understood.
At that number 1 overall pick.
But can I still, I don't win many games with him to begin with, but I know that if I had a good offense, I would be winning a lot of games with him. It just so happens he plays defense. He can only play one side of the ball. And we pay him to do something that he does better than anybody else in the league. That's go sack quarterbacks there. So he does make a difference there. If you had an offense, that's fine. What I'm talking about is that you want to trade him for a lot of good ideas. The good ideas have not always come to fruition. So I do have to think about what the ramifications are with the fan base that has been put through the ringer here over the last 5 years. And you've had 1 year of a little glimpse of what could be, but that was with a guy who was off the scrap heap and a guy who played instead of the guy you're paying $230 million. Nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see that guy. Some people do, but it's a maybe even it's really a quiet minority, to be honest with you, who really wants to see the guy. You can do it, and it may be the smart move. And I don't know how many people are going to be really outraged. I just wonder how many people, if you really did trade the guy, they'd just go, all right, that's it. I mean, yeah, I'll just come back to you when you guys are ready to do anything, because this is ridiculous.
I think a lot of people will say that. I think this is one of the things NFL franchises have in their favor, that fans do tend to come back. And they do, at some point, just really want to be entertained in the end. And they'll always have some delusions of a young team being good. And they'll be like, all right, I said I was out, but I'm back in. Like realistically, they've already lost a ton of season ticket holders.
Yeah, of course.
It's the first time in a long time that there's no wait list for anybody can just call and get season tickets. That's never been the case for a long time. The Browns have actually boasted about the waiting list. Well, that's gone.
And you're not going to make him any more likable by trading away the greatest player they've had since '99.
They know that, and I know you won't care about this, but there is a bit of courage in dealing Myles Garrett and knowing that it's going to turn off the fans that have at least been clinging to Myles Garrett.
You're the one who gave me this quote, so I'm going to use it against you, buddy. You could say it takes courage to do that. Also, you've said it before. Any idiot, underlying idiot, can tear down a football team.
For sure.
You said that.
For sure. And they've got to take all the shrapnel that's going to be there from them making a move of that nature. However, they also know that you got to be prudent at times. And, keeping Myles Garrett on a football team, what window does he line up with? Like, you don't have the quarterback.
I understand that, but I also think that, man, you go into this season first off with Todd Monken. Like, I think it's a much easier thing to do if you really wanted to do it. Like, I'm under no false pretenses here. There's times where I wonder if Myles really, really, really wants to be here. And I think a lot of us kind of wonder, maybe he doesn't. Okay, but I don't want to say it out loud because it bothers me. But if you're getting ready for next year's draft, there's bound to be a team in the top 5 that's not going to need a quarterback, that knows it's a quarterback-rich thing. You can't make a move there for that move.
But
if
just
you really
think
want
about
to,
it, Kenny.
because now I'm going to get a shiny new toy. I'm going to get other draft picks. I'm still going to have, hopefully, Todd Monken here. I don't have to torpedo something before it even begins by trading Myles Garrett. Because now I got to trade the guy and then wait a whole another year, and I got to sit here and hope. And a fan has to be told, hey, you really got to hope they lose so they have a nice high draft pick and they can use that traded pick for someone else as well. That sucks.
It does suck. But
that's terrible to tell a fan.
But would they ever have hired this coaching staff had they have had the future quarterback already on the roster? Had they have taken...
No, they probably wouldn't have...
Let's say Jackson Dart...
Kevin probably wouldn't be gone.
Let's say Jackson Dart would have flashed the way he did for the Cleveland Browns.
Okay.
And he was on the roster. Do you think Todd Monken's the head coach today?
No, Kevin is.
I don't even know. Honestly, I mean, maybe Harbaugh would have wanted to come here. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Daboll still did get fired.
They would have never hired Todd Monken at his age. Even though we're excited about certain things at Todd Monken, they never would. They would have been a more desirable job.
But I don't want. But just because it might have been a more desirable job, I'll leave it here with me. We'll obviously pick this up later in the show. We got Danny Cunningham joining us in 5 minutes. Talk Cavs. Let me just say this. Just because he might not have been the first choice overall doesn't mean I'm willing to make it a one-and-done thing. I want to give him a good, solid chance, and you're not giving him a good, solid chance by trading away the player of the generation right before the season starts for next year's draft.
But again, you're recognizing it's not about this year. This is not.
I understand.
They're not going all in because this team is some contender.
I understand
they're
that, but why can't I get two birds stoned at once? I can have a better offense. I can be a better football team. Why can't I show some incremental development and some improvement?
You know the answer.
And then I could trade him going into next year if I really wanted to. What?
This is a really bad year to be in the middle at the end of the year. It's with that draft looming, and we're not just talking quarterbacks. I mean, Jeremiah Smith could be like the 5th or 6th pick next year. Compare that to Carnell Tate at number 6 overall this year.
Danny Cunningham, Cavs, who's got the most pressure on him? And what's their label, and how can they remove that S word from him? Danny Cunningham talks Cavs with us in 5 on The Fan.
has yet to be determined. Don't miss this week's episode of 92.3 The Fan's off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns tonight from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Cavaliers, Toronto Raptors. I keep wanting to say Atlanta Hawks too. I keep wanting to say Atlanta Hawks.
We thought that's what it was going to be.
Well, then they decided to be cowards about it and avoid the Cavs as best they could.
The team that nobody in Cleveland seems to have faith in, Atlanta's like, oh, we don't want any part of them.
Nope. Danny Cunningham's going to join us right now as we get ready for Game 1 of the NBA playoffs coming up on Saturday. It's on Prime, so if you have Prime, you can watch it. But let's talk about it with Danny Cunningham right now. He's the host of Locked On Cavs, Inside Shot on Substack, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, Harper's Weekly. Danny, good morning. You're on the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline. Hello.
Hi, guys. How are you today?
We're doing wonderful. Who has the most pressure going into the postseason on the Cavs? On the Cavs, who has the most pressure going into this postseason?
I think it's Donovan Mitchell. It's his team. He's the best player in this series by a wide margin. He's the best player on this team, I think, by a healthy margin. He's never been in the conference finals, and I think I don't want to say it's now or never for him because you don't know what can happen, but there's never been an opportunity that he has had with a team as healthy as the Cavs appear to be right now, with a pathway that the Cavs appear to have right now, to finally get to the conference finals. This is the best opportunity that I think he has had in his career. Now, you could say the same thing about last year, and obviously that didn't turn out all that well, and the Cavs were not healthy at the wrong time, certainly. But this opportunity, I look at it and say, you've got the Toronto Raptors. I want to say Atlanta Hawks, too, so I understand where you guys are coming from there. You've got the Toronto Raptors, the team I think the Cavs match up really well with. And then you should have the Detroit Pistons, another team I think the Cavs match up really well with. And then you see what happens in the conference finals if you get there, but they should get there. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Donovan to make that happen.
Well, I loved that I saw a bounce to his step at the end of the year. It seemed like a month and a half where we were kind of wondering, where's Donovan? What's he doing? He's settling for so many threes. We're not seeing the explosiveness. He's doing nothing on defense. And then I feel like at the end of the year, he's like, oh, yeah, remember me come playoff time, how I can elevate my game. That's kind of what I saw. Does that match the eye test you might have given him?
Yes. I think when you watch that game he played against Atlanta last Wednesday, how frequently he was able to get to the basket. And Atlanta has some good defenders, certainly. But how frequently he was able to get to the basket, I want to say he was 12 of 19 from the floor in that game, and he only took 4 threes. Like, he was just getting downhill repeatedly. He was getting to the basket. He was doing the things that you expect Donovan Mitchell to do in the postseason. And certainly he had some really, really good games last year in the playoffs, but I do think he's healthier this year going into the playoffs than he was last year. Because think back to the end of the season last year, he had that ankle sprain. He suffered it against Sacramento. He actually collided with Keon Ellis. That's how he hurt it. And he missed the final, I want to say it was 5 games of the regular season. Now, could he have played in the last game of the year if he needed to? Maybe. But that was a legit injury that cost him about 2 weeks. And I don't know how much rhythm he was in. I don't know how healthy he was in going into the postseason. I think that, he missed a couple of games with an ankle injury this year. I don't think it was nearly as significant as last year's was. So I think that he is in a better place physically going into this postseason than he was last year.
Danny Cunningham joining us here on the Make It Right Call Kyle Wright hotline. What is the pressure on when it comes to Kobe? Because there's a lot of people going, well, you guys don't mention Kobe. I go, well, I think he's done a lot of things that he's had to do, considering the type of star power that he has on this team. But, if things don't go to the Eastern Conference Finals, could heads roll in the front office or even with Kenny at the head coach?
I think that there's probably more pressure on Kenny Atkinson than there is Kobe Altman. Because when you make a move as significant as the Darius Garland for James Harden swap, if it doesn't work out right away, it doesn't mean it's not going to work out. And I do think that considering how short of a runway that move had, there is pressure on that to be correct, but I think there's more pressure on Kenny Atkinson to make sure that it's correct than Kobe Altman at this point. I think Kobe is pretty safe, and I would say the same about Kenny, but if the Cavs don't get to the conference finals, I think more people would probably blame Kenny Atkinson than they would Kobe Altman. So I don't think that there's a ton of pressure on Kobe Altman right now. I think there's more on Kenny Atkinson if I had to pick between those two guys.
All right, well, we love talking about how the stakes are so high for so many of these players. We played a cut earlier from Zach Lowe and Bill Simmons saying, hey, if this doesn't go well, Donovan, could he be on the move? We've already talked a lot about Evan Mobley, and we certainly did that before the trade deadline as well, attached him to a bunch of Giannis proposals. But is everybody safe, do you think, if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals? Do you think this is the team and Harden gets that extension?
I do, especially considering the short runway that I just mentioned. Like, it is really, really challenging, no matter what your path is, to get to the NBA Finals or to win the title immediately after you make a franchise-altering trade at the deadline that year. So often when you see a big trade like this one made, and even think back to the first LeBron year back, like the Cavs didn't win that title. And I know part of that was injuries, but trading for Kevin Love, like that stuff takes time. So figuring out a James Harden trade in the middle of a season is a difficult thing. And if they don't get to the finals, am I going to sit here and say, you know what, it's still a successful season? No, probably not. They still came up short. But I do think that a conference finals berth is probably enough to look back and say, you know what, this group had 30 games together, whatever it was. They didn't have a healthy game at all this regular season. They got to the conference finals, and there's a lot of belief that next year, even if the Indiana Pacers are healthier, even if the Boston Celtics have a full season with Jason Tatum, there's a lot of belief that that team will be better next year. I think that's a fair thing to think, but that's still, I think it would be it'd be an interesting way to look at things, because I don't think that this would be a successful postseason, but I think it probably threads the needle to give you enough belief in this team next year.
Danny Cunningham joining us on the show. Wise, how healthy is Jared Allen?
I mean, it's hard to put a percentage on it, but very clearly not 100%. I thought it was smart that they did not play him on Friday in Atlanta and obviously on Sunday against Washington, because now you're looking at giving him 10 days off, essentially, between the last time he plays and the first postseason game. I mean, just watching him, and I'm not Jared Allen, so it's tough for me to put a percentage on how somebody else feels. Watching him, he looks like a guy playing at around 70%. You could make the case that nobody is 100% this time of year, but he didn't look as explosive or as bouncy to me and moving around as well that I'm used to seeing Jared Allen move around. Now, is he going to look better after 10 days off? I would think a little bit, but I'd be surprised if he's 100% as the playoffs get here on Saturday.
How much will that affect their offense and what they want to do? Because he's been fantastic since James Harden got here and was able to feed him.
I think it will affect it some, but I do think that Jared Allen at, say, 80% in this series against the Toronto Raptors is good enough. Like, I look at some of the matchups that this series presents, and I think the Cavs do have a big advantage on the interior. Like Jakob Poeltl for the Toronto Raptors. I don't know how much Raptors basketball you guys have watched lately, but Jakob Poeltl has not been very good. And I think that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, if he's healthy, should have a very, very big series. And I think that the Cavs should be able to run pick and roll, putting Poeltl in the action over and over and over again and find a lot of success, because I don't think that he can move nearly well enough to defend either Allen or Harden or Mitchell or Mobley. So I do think that the Cavs can get by without a fully healthy Jared Allen. Now, I don't think they can go all the way without a fully healthy Jared Allen, but I don't think in this series it's going to be that impactful.
So we haven't spent a lot of time even breaking down this series, and injury news came down yesterday that Emmanuel Quickley is injured. Who knows how many games he's going to miss. And that's just another reason to believe that they just don't have the horses to stack up with the Cavs. So I will ask a bigger picture question, Danny, because I've been making a case for a month that as long as the Cavs are healthy and they actually get their good defensive players back, like Tyson and Wade, that they are going to look a big time, in a big way, they're going to look a lot different. And I think we've seen in small samples like how dominant the Cavs have been. Is that where your head is at going into this postseason, that as long as the Cavs are healthy, like they really do have a really good shot to get to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Absolutely. I mean, I expect them to. If they stay healthy, I expect this team to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that they're certainly a much more talented team than the Toronto Raptors. I don't think anyone would push back on that. And I think they're a more talented and better team than the Detroit Pistons overall. Now, the Pistons had a much better year. They had a healthier year. They've got an MVP candidate in Cade Cunningham, and they are a team that is unquestionably worthy of respect. But the Cavs have a more talented roster in that series, and I think that they match up well against these two teams. So I do look at it and say if this Cavs team is healthy, which we have not seen all year, there's a very good chance that when the injury report comes out on Friday, that it is the lightest injury report the Cavs have had the entire season. They went through an 82-game slate and did not have their full rotation available one single time this year. I think that'll probably change barring something unforeseen on Saturday afternoon against the Raptors. So I do think that this is a team that can be much better in the playoffs than it was in the regular season. And I do think, too, there's something to the fact that this is a group knowing everything mattered in the postseason and not in the regular season. I do think at times it probably impacted how they played. Like, if you go look at some of their advanced numbers, they were a better team against top 10 teams than they were, like, middle-of-the-pack teams. They were a top 10 defensive team when they played top 10 teams in basketball. And that, to me, tells me that, okay, they probably know that they have another gear or two that we did not see all that frequently in the regular season.
Are the Cavs, Danny Cunningham with us on the show, Inside Shot on Substack, Locked On Cavs podcast, 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine. Are the Cavs still seen as soft nationally?
I think that nationally they certainly have that reputation. I think it's a silly one, but I do think that they have that reputation because of some of their previous postseason shortcomings, but I don't know that that is something that matters at all right now. Like, did they lose that Pacers series because they were soft? I don't think so. I think they lost it because they shot 29% from three, and their all-star point guard could barely walk by the end of this series. Did they lose to the Boston Celtics 2 years ago because they were soft? No, they lost because the Celtics were the best team in basketball, and the Cavs were nowhere near as talented as them. Now, you could make the case maybe they did against the New York Knicks several years back, but unless Cedi Osman and Lamar Stevens and Danny Green are going to play rotation minutes in this series, I don't know how much that necessarily matters. So that reputation can be there nationally, sure, but I don't think it's something that they, one, care about inside that locker room, and two, I don't think it necessarily is something that matters going into the series.
Well, for punditry, does then style points count with how they take care of the Toronto Raptors?
No, because they beat the Miami Heat by 1,000 points last year in the first round. Like, the only thing that matters is they need to win multiple series for the first time in this core's history. They could beat the Raptors by 1,000,000 points in 4 games, and if they lose to the Pistons in round 2, it's a failure. Like, that's how it was last year against the Pacers. That's how it is again. Style points, maybe you could make the case, matter in the second round. Like, if they look awesome and say they beat the Detroit Pistons in 5 games, is that going to change how people feel? Is that going to change who people pick to win the Eastern Conference Finals? It could, but I don't think style points in the first round matter for them. And I don't expect this to be a very long series, but if they win in similar fashion in the first round that they did last year, people are just going to say, oh, well, the Cavs in the first round again, who cares? Like, that's what it's going to be.
It's been over 2 months since the James Harden, Darius Garland trade. How do you think it's gone so far?
I think it's gone better than anybody could have expected because, like I said earlier, it is a real challenge to incorporate somebody that is as high of a usage guy as James Harden is into a team in the middle of the season and remain successful. That does not happen all that often in the NBA, and I think it is something that the Cavs deserve credit. Kenny Atkinson deserves credit. Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, they all deserve credit, and of course James Harden as well, for figuring this out on the fly. The fact the Cavs have been as good as they have been since that trade, I think they have the 4th or 3rd best record in basketball since that point. I think that's a really impressive thing. And James has taken on a role that I think it was fair to be unsure exactly what was going to look like. He's taken on that like true point guard role. He's not necessarily been a score first guy the way that we have seen James throughout his career be. And I think it's worked out tremendously. I think he's made the guys around him better in a way that is really important to the success of the Cavs. And yeah, it shortened their runway long term, but it made them a better team right now. And I don't think that's up for debate anymore.
Danny, thank you for the hot times. All the best, and we'll talk to you again hopefully very shortly.
My pleasure, guys.
Danny Cunningham on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Right hotline. I like what he had to say there about, like, well, they have that soft reputation nationally, but, I mean, just beating the Toronto Raptors by 1 billion doesn't really help when it comes to style points, because he was right about that Miami series. I almost thought that Miami series was a worse tune-up for the second round.
That it actually maybe got them overconfident.
Just with the way they were, kind of felt that way.
Remember, Miami was like the 10 seed last year.
Jeff Phelps going to join us at 8 o'clock. He has a special announcement for the station. You guys are going to really, really like this, especially you early risers. That's coming up at 8. Nick Bartlett, CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers and Monsters and Rock Entertainment. He'll join us at 8:20 in studio. Gavin Williams, he's your true number one. It's an About Last Night in 5 minutes on the Fan. K&K Heating and Cooling.
hero.
Embarrassing. We got to be better on defense.
It won't matter till April. I think we know that. Y'all gonna write us off. We could go 82-0. No one would care.
He's a piece of crap. The kid, he sucks. He's sucked his whole career.
I got rumors about him. How he couldn't please his wife, so now he's divorced.
Put a damn winning team on the field.
Now the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima give their thoughts on what you might have missed about last night.
Coming up at 8 o'clock, Jeff Thomas joins us for a special announcement. His name's written right there. I was looking right at it, and I said Jeff Phelps before the break. Like a true ass.
I'm horrible at checking my text on time 7 minutes ago from Jeff Thomas. He just called me Jeff Phelps.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It was a total mistake, a total accident.
But it still is a massive morning sports talk
Might even be a
announcement.
bigger announcement now that it's Jeff Thomas.
Yeah, I didn't even know
Phelps.
about the Phelps part of this. I don't know if Phelps knew.
It'd be great to get Phelps on it. Surprise his ass. All right, take it away. I'm sorry, Jeff Thomas. He's joining us in 13 minutes. Go ahead.
One game in town last night. Well, not in town, here in St. Louis. The Guardians win 9-3 behind Gavin Williams, going 5 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs allowed, 4 Ks, 2 walks. He worked around a 34-pitch first inning. Is he the ace of this team?
Yes. He is the true number one. Bobby there's no problem with. I don't think that there's a problem with Bobby. Now, I've had several people send me the same numbers of Bobby's ERA, which is showing me that would probably be more than just an early season problem. He's dealing with some shoulder issues, I think, considering what happened up in Seattle. I'm not going to freak out about him yet. You need him. I don't think he's a number one. I mean, if I were really going to do it, I think the future rotation of the Cleveland Guardians starts with Gavin Williams and then goes to Parker Messick, then goes to him, then goes to Joey Cantillo. And then Slate Ciccone or whoever as your fifth starter. No offense to Slate Ciccone. I just like Joey Cantillo so much. I think he's an innings eater. I think he's a tough pitcher.
If you had everyone on rest and you had to win a game tomorrow, you're probably throwing Gavin Williams out there first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
This whole staff, I mean, they do tend to need to be crafty, outsmarting hitters.
Well, the organization has to be crafty.
They have to, and it fits. It fits their identity, their personality. You know, some teams, they have guys just overpower, and that's really not the way that this team operates. Now, Gavin Williams bouncing back after the first 2 innings. I mean, he's 50-some pitches.
Battled through.
And
that first inning had a chance to really get away from him.
And what are we all thinking? Oh, boy, we're going to have to strain the bullpen. First game of the series. You have no days off.
That's why you had Austin Hedges pitching the other night.
Yeah, I know.
And want to get into that bullpen.
So, fortunately, he was able to weather the storm. And, again, another game that, like, their offense, I think the offense has to be ahead of where they've been at this stage of the year in many years. They're always, seems like every year, bottom 5 in every category. And right now, I said in the first segment of the show, they're 10th in home runs, they're 13th in walks, 16th in slugging, 15th in OPS. Like they're right around. This is as good, and against the teams they've gone up against.
Yeah, that's coming through the ALCS, Mariners, the Dodgers, and the Cubs.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And the Cardinals aren't no slouch here either in the early going of this season, but AZ Fudd was drafted to the Dallas Wings #1 overall in the WNBA draft last night. Her girlfriend and former UConn teammate Paige Becker was selected in the same spot a year ago. Now, this is something you don't really see in sports, but these are two people in a relationship on the same team.
Well, okay, so when do we get our WNBA team? 28 or 29? 28? All right, so workplace, relationships. Like, if they were to have a breakup, like, I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to want to trade for one of them. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm going to want to take advantage of that. So I hope it goes together, because if it doesn't go well and they have a breakup, I'm going to take advantage of it with a trade. I got to think about what's best for the Cleveland WNBA team. I'm going to tell you that right now. I hope that they're together forever, but if they're not, I'm going to take advantage of it. I love, and I'm down with it, but if there's a breakup, I want one of them players.
Can we share the surprise text we received from Ken Carman yesterday?
I did not know that they were in a relationship previously. I'm sorry. I had zero clue.
There were other things you didn't know, which it's not your job to know. The sexual preference,
I did not know,
of every player on every team in every sport. It's obviously over the years we have learned that in the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, like either a lot of people are lying or the numbers belie what we see in society.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're assuming there's got to be a number of closeted individuals.
Lying and not talking about are two different things. But yeah.
But
They're just not making it public.
Not being asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we asked everyone.
Well, yeah, you don't have to
ask
state
every man.
You don't have to state your preference. Yeah, I get
But
it.
also, I don't think I was surprised that Ken was surprised.
I didn't know.
Because if you follow social media, you tend to be able to pick up some cues. But in
I don't follow her.
In male sports, you can't because it's still a forbidden in the way that they look at locker rooms. They still, all these years later, after Michael Sam and Carl Nassib, like, players are just not comfortable being truthful about these things in the other sports.
I just had
in the WNBA, they wear it on their sleeves. It's part of their identity. It's honestly, it's part of their marketing. Like not necessarily WNBA marketing, but their own social media. It is a big part of who they are. It's a distinctly different situation.
I claim ignorance. I don't follow that many athletes, and the only women's basketball players I follow are Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
She's not even where she was now. She got traded.
Yeah, she got traded to the Atlanta Dream.
Yeah, bigger shocker to you that these two were in a relationship or that Travis Steele had a brother.
Travis Steele's half brother is John Gross. It was a much bigger surprise to me.
When he has Paige Buchers on and he's talking about.
I call her Paige Beckers. I call her Beckers.
It would just be very funny if we could recreate the scenario of Ken figuring stuff out on the fly.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was asked how long she expected to keep her job, and here's what she said.
Adam Silver was asked last month about your future as the commissioner of the WNBA, and he said he didn't know what you wanted to do. How much do you want to stay the commissioner of the WNBA? How much longer do you anticipate to be in this role?
Well, thank you, Maddie. I do crack up how everybody's focused on me, and you should be focused on the hundreds of amazing women and thousands of women who run this league outside of myself. Our women owners, our women board of governors, our women GMs and women head coaches, and my whole team of diverse women and men who are working hard every day to get the 30th season tipped off by May 8th. But I appreciate that you're focused on me as well. I wonder whether you would ask that of a man, by the way. But I realize as women, we get asked different questions than men do. But
that is not a different question. It's so odd, her retort.
That is a very weird response, considering I think every commissioner has been demanded by his fan base at one point or another to step down. David Stern was told repeatedly by fans to quit.
That was a bizarre answer.
Gary Bettman, they're always coming for his job.
Look, I understand, as evidenced by our last conversation, that the WNBA, there is a much different standard, the way we treat the WNBA compared to every other sport that we cover. She said 30 years. The average person would not have known that the WNBA has been around for 30 years because it was not a real league. When it started, teams folded. It lost so much money that we wondered if there was any interest enough to sufficiently carry the league at all. Now we've seen, as they finally got a big media deal, the NCAA women's tournament without Caitlin Clark just scored massive ratings. So this thing is here to stay. Women's sports, this is obviously
it was a terrible answer.
It makes no sense. The answer makes no sense, which is surprising coming from Miss Kathy, who I had a nice beverage with when we were right down there in the right off. I'll just say Pizza 216. We had a very nice drink
just throwing out names now.
Yeah, a nice discussion about the future of her league. And at no point did she say, "Would you have a drink with a male commissioner?"
I once shared some pizza with Paul Tagliabue at Sabaros. You don't see me bragging about it.
It was just it was nice that we could have a heart-to-heart conversation when I pressed her on whether the WNBA would be coming to town, and she did not. She was not forthcoming at that point.
Okay. That's it for about last night.
I could have had a scoop of a century, Kenny.
Outstanding, John. Outstanding. Okay, Jeff Thomas, the Pink Tornado, the Silver Sow Award winner. He will join us in studio in 5 minutes, as well as do style points count more than regular points coming up. Yeah, I think there's some fans who feel that way. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, Nick Barlich, 820, CEO of the Cavs on the Fan.
Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Catch Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin live on YouTube each and every weekday from 2 to 7 p.m.
It's almost pink tornado time. Jeff Thomas is coming in here. Jeff Thomas, not Jeff Phelps.
Thank God.
Not Jeff Miller.
Jeff Gordon?
Not Jeff Gordon.
Okay.
I don't know any other. Not Jeff Burton. I'm just going to go NASCAR driver.
That's a different Jeff.
Not
though.
Jeffrey Bodine.
That's a Jeff of a different spell.
Yes.
Not Jeffrey Dahmer.
Not Jeffrey. Well, I don't know what you do in your personal life.
As my lawyers say, I'm perfectly fine.
You like Michael Stanley?
Oh, yeah, Michael Stanley.
Yeah, so did Jeffrey Dahmer. Huh. Interesting. All right, Jeff Thomas joining us in studio. I'm sorry I called you Jeff Phelps earlier.
Kenny Crumpton's quite all right.
Totally, I deserve it. That was a total asinine statement by me. Totally dumb. I have your name written right there. The great Jeff Thomas joins us right now. Jeff, it's wonderful to see you. It's wonderful to hear the news that you're about to break with everybody. Please go right on ahead and tell. Do we tell it, or does Jeff tell everybody?
It can be a collaborative effort. Yeah.
All right. Do you want to tell everybody, Tom?
Shout it at the same time. Well, we are going to make Cleveland Sports Talk radio history,
Yes,
I do believe, because for, I think, we're going on 8 years, 9 years. How many were we been on at 6 a.m.?
Oh, 9.
We've been on 9 years, 6 a.m. to 10, and we have not messed.
About to be 10.
We have not messed with that
whatever.
format. We've expanded the show. Obviously, there's more ways than ever to get us, to listen to us, to see us. And we thought, you know what? Our fans are clamoring for 60 more minutes of local Cleveland sports talk. They don't want to hear national every day. And so who better to help us out with that endeavor than the great Jeff Thomas, who is going to truly start the day, kickstart things at 5 a.m. with local Cleveland sports talk right here on Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Thomas.
That's right, kids. It's the 92.3 The Fan warm-up starting at 5 o'clock. We're going to start off on Monday. And it's going to be a little different. It's not going to be quite like a sports talk show, though. It's going to be kind of more like highlights and post-game stuff, kind of a recap, kind of let you know what's going on. We'll have clips from some of the other shows. If you do a really good interview, maybe we'll play a clip from your show. If you slide a little bit of cash towards the table, maybe your clips we'll use.
Payola.
I'm just saying.
Nice. I'll do it. I'm not above paying you money.
If it's in-house, Ken, it's not payola. It's friendship. So that's all I'm saying.
I'm down with it. Whatever Alan Freed had to say, I'm down with it, man. That's fine with me.
Just as long as you can make some room if we're feeling to oblige and to call in on the way into work.
Yes.
As I said, Jeff is going to get some calls from me on the way in. I am going to sabotage. So you're neatly produced. We've got your rundown and your outline and everything. No.
Here comes Lima.
If I feel the need, especially after a Cavs playoff game, to get something off my chest and to maybe tease something for the show, I got to do it. But Jeff, we're excited because, look, we've noticed it with a lot of our listeners. Like, they are there. They're there on YouTube. They're there on the stream, sometimes like a half hour early, 45 minutes early. And they're not, we feel like at times we may not be getting the needs met, for our listeners. And so now with this extra hour, I think we're going to be able to do it. Like our boss is up working out at 4:45 in the morning. And, when he's driving home from his workout, he's got to hear some national guy talking about something that is not on the radar of our fans. So I think this is going to be an awesome opportunity.
Yeah, Keith's coming down from that roid rage, and the last thing you want to do is make him more upset. So we're going to go local here, and we're looking forward to it. And prime example is, TV news folks have been doing stuff like at 4 a.m. So there are people out there, they're watching, they're listening. So we're kind of finally jumping on the bandwagon to get people more involved earlier at 5 a.m. and set things up. And more importantly, we're kind of ramping up and warming up for your show. So for the 3 people who don't listen, boom, they know what's going on. We let them know that you guys are coming up at 6.
Are you going to take shots at us and for our opinions from the previous day?
It depends on what you do. If you deserve it, which is most likely, sure, we'll do that.
If one of us says something nasty about Shatner, are we getting it?
Oh, yeah, it's coming down.
Are you going to say something nasty about him just so we'll talk about you on the air?
I'll tell you who I'm not going to say anything bad about. Oasis, who
is
apparently
in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jeff Thomas.
Jeff spent. Jeff spent literally $75,000 to go see Oasis.
Yes.
With his wife.
Guess what fan votes mean? Not a damn thing, sucker.
How much were you willing to pay for Sade, who is also in the Hall of Fame?
Well, yeah, probably $200.
$200?
She's very talented.
Oh, she is.
She gets you in the mood. What are you talking about?
That Jeff's a smooth up.
Luther Vandross is more. He's also going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Is.
Posthumously, correct?
Yeah.
I think so. Okay, I'm making sure.
That's why they haven't updated One Shining Moment.
I'm never up that late anymore. I don't get.
By the way, Owen will be on the show with me, so that tells you where it's going to go. So
still miss Teddy P.
I'm just pushing buttons, guys.
You like Teddy P more than Luther?
I like his version better.
Okay.
That's all.
That's an interesting take you have there. I like Luther Vandross's version.
And Wu-Tang.
Wu-Tang Clan
I like
is
Wu-Tang's version more.
Nothing to F with, and they are also nothing to fart in the general direction of, as they are in the Hall of Fame.
Hey, props also, Iron Maiden finally got in.
Okay,
They should have been in decades
I
ago.
know an Iron Maiden song?
Run to the Hills.
Okay.
I'll
listen to it during the break.
And their lead singer is like the most cultured guy in the universe. All the stuff he's done was Bruce Dickinson, I think is the guy's name.
Yes.
He's a professor. He's an airline pilot. I mean, all kinds of. He flies the tour plane when they go on tour.
Duh.
So Iron
He
Maiden.
flies the plane?
Yes.
Symphony of Destruction.
We could have taught Ronnie Van Zant. I'm a Leonard Skinner fan. I can say it. So fine. I'm going to say congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
We do. How do I say this without getting in trouble? I really, really, really appreciate that it's you ahead of us.
Okay.
And not Jeff Phelps?
And not something else that had been going on. So we love you, and thank God you're here.
Thank you.
And I mean that sincerely.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. The great Jeff Thomas, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
look forward to hearing the first call will be from Anthony and Derailment Monday morning. Looking forward to it.
Does Eddie get to get in the Hall of Fame? You don't even know who Eddie is. Thank you very much.
No
Jeff.
problem.
I was going to make an inside reference to Iron Maiden. He don't.
I don't know. Yeah.
He doesn't.
That's why I was asking if I even know anything.
Eddie's the name of the skeleton that's on the artwork cover of the albums when it comes to Iron Maiden. That was a little too much. That's, a little too inside there. Nick Bartlett's going to join us at 8:20. So I got to get moving with this. We got more Miles conversation, regretfully, and it's the right message. You guys are just going to hate the messenger. That's coming up later on. Nick Bartlett joins us in less than 10 minutes. Let me ask you this. Do style points matter in the postseason for the Cavs? Because the reason I asked, John asked a question, and I thought that Danny Cunningham, when we had him on at 7:22 this morning, I thought Danny had one of the best answers. It was like, John goes, hey, if you just beat the Toronto Raptors in a series and you sweep them, but you do it by like a dozen points altogether, are fans going to be that excited? And I thought, well, fans probably aren't. And part of that is because, the challenge has been laid, the gauntlet has been laid by a lot of the fans. And I also think that, the game against the series against Miami, that was not really a series. It was probably one of the worst postseason series in recent NBA, honestly, in the last 20 years. A one team just getting trounced by the other team. It was probably one of the worst that you're going to find. And it did nothing to prepare the Cavaliers for the Indiana Pacers.
No.
Now, I think that it'll probably be, at worst, a gentleman's sweep. Maybe Toronto takes one of them. And you could give me that they swept this in the regular season. That was before the James Harden trade. You're a better team than what Toronto is. Atlanta wanted to not play you as much as they possibly could. I don't think style points matter. I thought they might, but I thought it was a hell of a point. Like, hey, man, you just beat up Miami up and down the floor, and that didn't help nothing. Here's where it does.
Here's where it will matter, especially with so many fans that are keeping the team at arm's length.
I think I'm going to agree with you.
Like, especially, this happens in NBA playoff series. Like, favorites do lose the game at home. It does happen. Especially now with three-pointers being such a big part of the game. Like, if you have a bad shooting night, another team comes in and miraculously hits a bunch of shots. Next thing you know, you're trailing in the series. It'll be DEF CON. It'll be DEF CON. In fact, I might not even be able to show up for the show. I might have to come in for the Jeff Thomas show and not this show because I know I'm going to get it. I know I'm going to get it.
No, if you show up for Jeff's show, you're going to be showing up for this one.
I know I'm absolutely going to get obliterated, and I'm going to be sitting here going, guys, it's one game, and you will not care. You will not care because there are people in this town that do not trust this team, and they are not on board. I'm already getting tweets about, you guys are setting up the Jared Allen injury already because I brought up how he's playing through pain, and Danny Cunningham spoke to it, and it's now a pain management thing.
Uh-huh.
And Guys are already like predicting doom and gloom. Like, oh, you're already starting to lay it out, the excuses for why they've been losing. I'm like, no. Jared Allen is the 4th or 5th best player on the team. Like, their playoff hopes do not hinge on Jared Allen. They hinge on Donovan Mitchell and other guys.
Yes.
But either way, and Donovan has been one of the all-time Cleveland sports postseason performers already.
Yes, he has.
I think he's on that list.
Yes, he is.
I hate to say it's only been 2 games,
No,
but
really,
even Myles Garrett's not on that list.
No, I think
Donovan has had these virtuoso playoff performances.
Which is what makes this run so much more important, because I do think that he's unfairly criticized by a lot of folks. I think he is a number one in this league. I think he's obviously the number one in this team, but I do think that if it doesn't go the way they want it to go this year, or they don't get as far as where they need to go this year, I think there's going to be plenty of questions nationally. I'm not sure how many they're going to get here in Cleveland. I'm not sure how many they're going to get locally here. But I think nationally there's going to be a lot of questions that he may have to answer about where his legacy is, or if he needs to be in the passenger seat somewhere else. And that's something I hope that we don't have to answer this offseason or this coming postseason here with the team we're about to be playing with the Toronto Raptors and then probably the Detroit Pistons. Once you get to that, I do think that Boston's a tremendous team. I think it's house money in so many ways. 216-474-0092. All right, coming up in 5 minutes. We told you Nick Bartlett's going to join us, CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Monsters, Rock Entertainment. He joins us at 8:20 as we get ready for the Cavs postseason in 5 minutes on The Fan.
XTENDAV.com.
That press conference live right here on 92.3 The Fan. Don't miss this week's episode of 92.3 The Fan's off-season special. Get the latest on the Browns tonight from 7 to 9. Headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
Back of the Fan. Coming up in a little bit, it's what you want to hear. I just don't know if you're going to like the messenger. But in studio right now, that's the person everybody likes. Nick Bartlett joins us on the show. He's the CEO of the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cleveland Monsters, Rock Entertainment. He's got a lot of hats. He has a lot of jobs, but CEO's at the beginning of it. Nick, thank you very much for joining us in studio here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Playoffs start on Saturday for us, 1 p.m. And there's been a lot of people who have gone after Anthony, to a lesser degree me, because this has been a season where Lima's done a lot of challenging other hosts about their excitement for the season, but still 187 consecutive sellouts over there at Rocket Arena for Cavaliers basketball. That's a hell of a number, Nick.
It is. We are in a great era of Cavaliers basketball, and we do feel like, we are positioned to be able to really make some noise and make an impact in the postseason. This is what we've been building for. Last year, the regular season was so smooth, was so elegant, was so beautiful. And then come playoffs, we ran into some turbulence. And this year, the regular season's a little bit opposite. It's been a little bit of a scatter plot, but we are coming together at the right time. We're healthy, and we could not be more excited to have home court to get us going on Saturday.
Well, there was a time, 33 games into the year, I think you guys were 17 and 16.
We were.
And I came on the air, sat in this chair, and said, most disappointing team in basketball. And think of how things have changed for this team. Now, unfortunately, the injuries didn't change. Like, you guys have been as banged up as any team in the NBA. I think by salary, it's second most, just to kind of gauge the impact. Mm-hmm. But here you are at the end of the year. Like, I could not have dreamt up a better path. I know that means nothing to some fans until it's actually proven on the court. I couldn't have come up with a better runway for this team to be able to make a deep run as the weather gets nicer than what is set up right now for the Cavs.
Yeah, look, I think as you look at it, that adversity early on, to be one game above 500, you're absolutely right, with a north of $400 million payroll. Trust me, we weren't happy either. And you were right for all the words that you said. We follow you, and I follow you, and I wasn't disagreeing with anything that you guys were making comments on. But I think when you look at that adversity, as you distill that out into what today is, it's created opportunity for us. It's created the ability for other guys to be able to play, other guys to get more run in. And now as you look at it, we have a depth, we have health, and we're well positioned to be able to really withstand any of the challenge that may come at us. We have this saying internally, don't look at things for the challenge that they create, but look at them for the opportunity that they present. And we firmly believe that that's what this regular season is built for us as we get ready for a postseason run.
Obviously, Saturday at 1 o'clock, is it? 1 o'clock?
That's yes.
Right. You guys will kick off, the NBA playoffs, and this place is going to be rocking like it always is. I know there's always some anxiety about like an afternoon game or guys going to come out slow, and we saw that at times this year, sometimes veteran teams, but I feel like given a week and everything this team has dealt with, and now they're finally healthy, I feel like in front of those fans, they're going to be able to lock in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The atmosphere, we have the best home court in all of sports, and that's a tribute to our great fans here in Northeast Ohio. And we've always have some wonderful surprises. We have Dan, our chairman. We always sit down at the end of every regular season. We map out a bunch of new toys and tricks that we're going to have for the playoffs, and this year is going to be it's going to be lit. It's going to be exciting, and the atmosphere is going to be raucous, and we can't wait to get started.
How has the year been for both entities when it comes to the teams? Cleveland Monsters as well. Obviously, always at the top of the attendance as well. It seems that people have a real passion to go into the building and enjoy either one of the teams that you are in charge of.
Yeah, I appreciate you calling that out. Look, this is the first year in it's been 14 years that the Charge, the Monsters, and the Cavs all made the playoffs. And so winning creates this kind of amplification or this momentum within our business. And, the Charge, they should have won their first playoff game against I think it was the Go-Go City. It was a close game. We actually were leading the whole game, and we lost last minute. And then the Monsters are a couple days behind us. So they've got their fan salute on Sunday at Rocket Arena. And for us, really, especially on the business side, it's about creating this experientially driven economy where we're just bringing people downtown every day of the week, every day of the year. in a way to pull for their different teams. And the great part about it, the Monsters fan base is a little bit different than the Cavs fan base. The WNBA fan base we're seeing is significantly different than those fan bases as well. And so for us, it's really about how do we continue to bring this great community together.
Speaking of that, you saw Golden State. They started their franchise just last year. Portland, I believe, is starting this year, if I'm not mistaken. Are you taking anything from them about how the Cleveland franchise starts, 2028, if I'm not mistaken?
2028, yeah. Well, it'll be here before you know it. But we're students of all of those things, Ken, and we really look at what they've done on the court, but also off the court. We have been building the business. Our group will continue to grow and scale as of July of this upcoming year. And we're really starting to focus on how we build out the basketball operations side of the house for us. We should have some announcements. Our goal is by the end of this calendar year to really be able to start to build that team out that'll support the team on the court. And then obviously we've got expansion draft and all those things which will come in January, first quarter of 2028. So we are all over this thing. I will tell you the amazing thing about the WNBA right now is it is on such a trajectory that every time we put something out there, it goes viral. I mean, we cannot wait. We're going to launch our brand here later this summer, and it will be one of those moments that I think will really take Cleveland to the world in a very, very, very positive way. But we are all over it, and we continue to study it every single day, and we're thrilled to be in that business.
Is it harder to find, and I know that we're still in the real early phases of this, but like finding the right basketball people for a sport that has 14 teams right now?
Yeah,
and
16 as the start of this year.
16. Yeah. So I mean, that's half of what the NBA has, and the NBA's looking like they're going to have 32 here pretty soon. And to me, it's like, well, that might be more difficult to find the talent for 32 teams as it would be to be 16. But it's like you have such a tight group that there's great college basketball players that we know about, and they're not WNBA worthy. And I'm thinking that job has to be so much more difficult than it is even in the NBA to find everything else with the system that the NBA has.
Yeah, it's a great point. But the thing I would point to is, think about when like the LeBrons and the KDs and that kind of genre and band of players came in. That's the exact type of elevation of talent you're seeing with the Pages and the Asia Fudges and soon to be the Juju Watkins. That's kind of the Caitlin Clarks, obviously, in previous years. We're in that kind of golden era of unique unicorn-like talent in the WNBA. And so you got to think that's also going to breed future generations of players and future pipeline of talent. And by the way, we were just out in Phoenix for the Women's Final Four last weekend, Kobe and myself, and we spent a ton of time, and the international game on the women's side is growing at such a remarkable rate. And so you start looking at all of these things, there's going to be a pipeline of talent. And I think the great news is for us here in Cleveland, with a chairman like Dan, the people that are going to be running the basketball side for us, they're going to have all the resources in the world. They're going to have some of the best facilities in the world. It is an attractive job. People want this job. And that to us was so rewarding, but also so reinforcing that we're doing this at the right time for the right sport and for the right city and for the right region.
So when somebody like Bill Simmons, who has his voice amplified to where it is, say he thinks the WNBA expansion is, quote, staggeringly stupid, how do you react to that? Because I couldn't believe that somebody as smart as Bill, with all the numbers that are out there, with the way the league is ascending and women's sports in general, and the way that there seems to be a mass of people that want this stuff, how is it that somebody could think that expansion doesn't make sense right now?
Yeah, I think in that scenario, that falls in the bucket of ignore the noise for us. To me, love Bill and love what he reports on. And look, he's a renowned journalist in a lot of ways. Look, these will be billion-dollar franchises within the next 7 to 8 years. And so anybody that doesn't think expansion works in the WNBA right now, I don't understand where they're getting it from. The other part of it is you need more critical mass, more teams to create more games, more opportunities, more jobs for athletes. Like, it doesn't happen without more volume, right? And so for us, we really think the growth of women's sports and specifically the WNBA is still in like the first or second inning, to use a baseball analogy. I mean, we think this thing's got a long way to go yet. And when you look at viewership, I mean, look, I'll give you one example. Last year, Sunday afternoon, the Dream opened up against the Fever. Caitlin Clark versus Angela Reese at 4, I think it was 4 o'clock tip. Did 1.8 million viewers on television. Yankees Red Sox, what followed it, Sunday Night Baseball, did 1.4 million viewers. So you think about that. Like, that shows you the power of women's sports. Now, that is a pinnacle, peak-on-peak, home opener, Caitlin Clark versus Angela Reese type of thing. But 5 years ago, we were never talking about that. It was not even in the same zip code, And so, to me, that's all growth and that's all upside. And I do think sometimes people are they're entitled to their own opinions, but I just think you got to ignore the noise in that situation because the growth of the game is real, it's sustainable, and it's going to be here for a long time.
Nick Bartlett joined us in studio with the Cavs. So you talked about growth. How about a lot of the development that's going on down here on the riverfront? It's something that, Dan Gilbert has made it a big priority, and we've seen it. We've seen the cranes. We've seen stuff, coming along, and now Cosm, the groundbreaking on Thursday. So tell us a little more about, where we're at right now.
Yeah, look, we've been busy. We have been busy. Our focus is really how can we revitalize this urban core by the end of this decade. And so Cosm, we break ground on Thursday. It'll open by football season of 2027, which we think is going to be just it is a thrill and an honor for us to have the 5th location in the world right here in Cleveland, Ohio. The 4th will be in Detroit, Michigan, which for us it's really about how do we continue to shine a bright light and a spotlight onto these great American cities, and that's the work that we're focused on. But, Cosm's a world-class immersive experience that nobody's ever seen anything like it. And for us to be able to bring it to Cleveland, we are thrilled to be able to break ground. It'll shoot out of the ground. I mean, now that we've got all the work done underneath, it'll shoot out of the ground and be really only about an 18-month build process for us to get that thing up and running. We have a Cleveland Clinic Global Peak Performance Center, which we move into in February of next year, and then an amphitheater we just announced in partnership with Live Nation that we'll move into in May of 2028. So for us, we've got all these things hitting, and it's really about, once again, it's about how do we our goal is to bring 5 million people to the Gateway District by the end of this decade on an annual basis. And the economic impact that comes from that is it creates so much growth for our city. And I think the other part that people underappreciate in this is it creates footfall, it creates volumes of people, and it creates more safety. And for us, that is so important to be able to really make sure we're pouring and breathing more life into this city because we need it right now. We need it, and we're seeing our footfall numbers have dropped they haven't totally recovered from COVID. And we think through these strategic investments, we'll be right back on track.
How important? It's obviously very important, but what's been kind of the pushing values of being an event city? I mean, you're from the Midwest, and when people in the Midwest, they hear about change, it's usually not great change, so they're usually very skeptic of it. But, I mean, we're talking about Cosm, which some people may not know. It's a giant immersive experience, unlike anything I think I've ever seen. 200 and some odd thousand square feet when it comes to the training facility that you have, the amphitheater and everything. How important is it? I know you guys have worked very closely with the people downtown to make this an event hub for people throughout the Midwest as they go through whatever travels they may be going through?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, Ken. I think, when we studied this a couple years ago before we got ready to do all of this work, what you realize when you study whether it's Cleveland or Detroit or these great cities, the people that live here in the region, they have a passion for entertainment. They have a passion for sports that's really unrivaled anywhere in the entire world. And so for us, it was how do we play to our strengths? We could sit around and wait for the next big headquarters to move into downtown Cleveland, or we could create our own momentum. And for us, we know this space fairly well. We're not perfect in it at all times, but we work extremely hard at it. And it was like, how can we take and play strength on strength with the region we have here, the people, their affinity for not only their teams, but also for sports and entertainment in general. And you think about it, we're the home of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We're the home of the second largest arts and theater district in the country. And so you start putting these things together. It's not by chance. It's because people care, they invest, and they're willing to vote with their wallet. And that is something that we really want to harness and make the most of for the betterment of our community at the end of the day.
I do want to ask because in some corners of the internet, you would think the NBA is at an all-time crisis level. I know we've been immune to it because we're not one of the 20 teams apparently tanking for this draft, but we've seen so many guys missing games and so many questionable lineups down the stretch. What is Dan's take on this? What the Cavs? How do they feel about the NBA season at 82 games and just what we're seeing with so many teams? The last month of the year not really trying to win.
Yeah, I think look, for us, we want to put our best foot forward every night for our fans. We want the greatest chance to win every single night. And I think you see it reflected in that. For the most part, I think our guys, they care, and they really care about making sure that they're out there for our fans in our city. Look, I wouldn't say this isn't as much of a Dan thing. This is much more of Adam Silver thing. He was driving this at the league level. And I think Adam's right. I think Adam is really focused on protecting the integrity of the game for all the right reasons. And as you look at it, look, I say this all the time. A fan that pays for a ticket, their wallet doesn't get the night off. And so as you think about it, those are the things that I think we have to just be very cognizant of. Now, there are real health things that are out there. I mean, Max Strus had a broken foot. Max Strus wasn't able to play. Let's be real. That was not a tanking situation or a resting situation or any of those. So I think you always have to prioritize a player's health and wellness. That has to be at the very top of the pyramid decision. But I think Adam is spot on. When you look at some of these behavioral things that have happened within teams, sitting players for fourth quarters, sitting players for second halves that are healthy, that have started the game, that isn't in the best interests of the game or the best interests of the fan. We are very fortunate here in Cleveland, Ohio, that we have a team that cares and is very focused on putting the best product on the court we can every single night. We've dealt with our rash of injuries. There is no doubt about that. But our guys come back, and they really are focused on playing. But I think across the league, Adam is really – he's got his pulse on this, and he is, in my opinion, the best commissioner in professional sports because of how he's able to get into the weeds and get into the bowels of the business, as we say, and then still be able to pull out and make the right decision for the moment, but also make the right decision for the future. And I think that's what you're seeing in him focusing on fixing tanking.
Nick Bartlett, CEO, Cavs, Monsters, Charge, Rock Entertainment, everything. Nick, thank you so much for the time, for coming in studio. Good luck to you guys as you start the postseason Saturday.
We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Nick Bartlett's joining us in the studio. Coming up in 5 minutes, is there anyone in wine and gold that's untouchable starting Saturday? And coming up at 9:20, you're going to like this message. You're just not going to like the messenger. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, live on The Fan.
where it merges with I-90 East. That's the slow bit this morning. Jeff Thomas, Odyssey Cleveland traffic.
This is where Cleveland fans turn to talk Cavs basketball. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
I'm going to get to the pressure with the Cavaliers here in just a moment. I love the question you asked Nick at the end of the interview about the NBA, whether or not it's in quote-unquote crisis mode. I think that people have their talking points. I think in our city, the Cavs are number 2. Now, there are baseball first fans who may disagree with that. I just go by the favor of what I get from everybody.
I think it goes back and forth.
I think there are times maybe, yes. And obviously in the 90s, baseball was number 1 here, and I think even when the Browns came back, baseball was still there. And then, once you get LeBron James, conversations change. But I think if you look across the league, people bring up ratings. I'm not sure how much I could trust ratings, because when you have these streaming services that are baked in now, I don't know what to pay attention to, because everything, a historically high number. Well, you're counting it different. So I always kind of take it with a little bit of a grain of salt when it comes to television ratings with all the 3 major sports that we talk about here.
Yeah, hey, NBA and baseball will never get back to the ratings of the late 80s, 90s. That's never happening. Football is the only sport, as we know, that in this country they have no problems getting that kind of critical mass that we talk about. But, just judging, and I've seen a lot of these pieces come out and talk about the NBA's ratings compared to the Jordan years. Yeah, it's not when there were only how many channels, when there was no Netflix, when you actually had to go to a store to rent a VHS tape.
Well, there were things
the ratings are never going to be that way and same thing for baseball. Ratings were up big time in the World Series this year. Yeah, the Dodgers were there. Well, yeah. Go look at the World Series when it was Texas and Atlanta.
There was less to offer. There was more generalized television, more generalized entertainment. Now you can find something that's segmented just for you and tailored just for you. So that means that there's going to be less viewers for everything out there. I mean, look at the American sitcom and how much of that is, that it's dead because we ran out of storylines and we ran out of people who want to watch the sitcoms. But when it comes to sports, I think it's the next great frontier about how you balance it. Because, one of my concerns is I think a lot of people that we're talking to probably have Prime. So it's probably not that big of an issue. But when it comes to Peacock and all the other stuff, when we're starting to talk about playoff games being put on subscription services and not over-the-air broadcasting, that's still you could be an ageist about this if you want to. You can be against whatever with people with technology. There's going to be people they just don't find it to be within their budget of what they want to spend. Or even if you give them a free trial, they don't want to have to go through the rigmarole of having to get rid of that trial. So how are you going to balance that over the coming year? Because you're taking eyeballs off your product, is what you're doing. And we've seen this with the NFL, with the point where the Department of Justice is looking into it, for crying out loud, because of the 61 case. But if you go to baseball, I mean, how often do we get asked by Sislo? Every year over the last 3 years. How's my mom going to be able to watch Guardians? All right, same thing with the Cavs, and it's the same thing with the postseason, because when you're starting to dabble into subscription services, people don't like root hogging and having to look all over the place for their sports.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just the reality. I mean, the NFL has streaming-only playoff games now.
And when you add in, the NFL has done, and the NFL has had serious controversy. Since the beginning of this show, the NFL has had serious controversy. And somehow they've been able to, in a way, almost ignore it to a level that Major League Baseball and the NBA just haven't.
Yeah, and in football, nobody cares about the style of play. Nobody cares who the superstars are, or lack thereof at times. Nobody seems to care if there are 64 quarterbacks that start in a given year and the teams are all tanking the last 2 weeks of the year. Nobody cares about that with the NFL. They are Teflon. It's a double standard, but people just love football.
Well,
they love gambling on football.
Yes.
And so that's why football is propped up. Baseball and the NBA cannot really compare themselves to the NFL anymore.
And it's a shorter season, but I also love that. I saw an article, I think this was from Josh Edwards of CBS. It was either him or Jonathan Jones that had it.
Yeah, Jonathan Jones.
Jonathan Jones, where the NFL is stressing how they can learn from Major League Baseball, and especially the NBA, when it comes to the whole, not just tanking, but when it comes to load management, things like that. Because yeah, no matter what I say, like people are not going to. Well, what Nick said was true. Like, well, your wallet doesn't take a night off. The price of the ticket's the price of the ticket. You can try to get it secondary market, but at some points, good luck with that. And if a guy's not playing, a guy's not playing. And then, I mean, let's be honest. I don't think LeBron should have said it. I think LeBron started the conversation about Memphis because I think the league does want to move that team to Nashville. But when you say that publicly like that, I think people take that as this is an entire problem because I may not live in New York, I might not live in L.A., or maybe a couple other cities.
Yeah,
I don't know if these guys are going to be able to, or I don't know if these guys are going to play in my city if I buy a ticket. So you went from the traveling road show of what it was when it was a super team era to now where it's like, well, I don't know if guys are going to play. And it's a major problem where it's turned into the old problems of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, I think, fixed a lot of their problems. I know that they have a lockout looming, and that's the biggest problem that they have. Is competitive balance, quote unquote. But time of game, pace of play, all those other things, those have been addressed. And for the longest time, I thought Major League Baseball didn't do a great job because I thought they only seemed to focus on their problems and then accentuated their problems. And I think the NBA is kind of going down the same road because we're getting ready for the postseason, and I'm seeing great big think pieces on tanking, load management, what needs to be fixed. And the fixes that the league has to tanking, I got to tell you, I don't like because I think they're too... If you read it over a couple times, you sort of get it, but I think they are so much in the weeds.
It's the perfect storm. It's not just the tanking. And in the NBA, the only way to really turn your fortunes around if you're bad is the draft. And they've made it so you can't even really sign free agents with the new rules. So they're so restrictive. The draft is the only way to go. But even the good teams are not necessarily tanking, but not going all out. Why? Because their seeds don't matter.
Yeah.
Nobody cares anymore in the NBA. I mean, yeah, they'd like to have more home games. So the only way to fix that is to, first round, give teams 5 home games, for having the higher seed. Then you would see a more spirited race because you could see it. You could see, did the Cavs really care about their seed the last month of the year?
No. Wait.
I mean, the last month of the year.
The last month of the season, I thought they did.
No, but what I mean is, was their
About
whole season going to be defined by which number they had? But in the NFL, you try to win every game hoping that you get into the playoffs and a home playoff game.
And
that matters. In the NBA, they don't. These teams can go on the road and win just as easily as they can.
And when I say that, and we had the clip on Friday where I was like, I don't want them to win against Atlanta on Friday. I don't want them. In fact, I even said I don't want them to. I want them to lose. I'm not going to root for them to lose. I want them to lose against Atlanta on Friday. And there are a lot of people that just don't get it. And I can't be nasty to those people because sports is you're supposed to win everything. You're supposed to try to win everything. But I see it and I go, well, this is the smart thing. This is what they're supposed to do. So now you even erode trust even more with some fans because now you've got this thing set up the way you want it. And so if you don't cash in when you have this thing set up the way you want it, there's going to be even more hell to pay than where if you would have just got the number 1 seed, this, that, and the other. And we've been through that before. But if you got this thing set up the way you want it and you game the system, quote unquote, and you don't get to where you need to go, then you've lost all trust. You've lost all trust.
I got to say, though, we are in store as bad as this last month has been, and it's been terrible. I'm a diehard NBA fan. It's been terrible. The next 60 days are going to be amazing. The NBA playoffs are amazing. It's unfortunate that, Luka and Austin Reeves and Joel Embiid, there's some injuries, but I can't wait for the playoffs. They're great matchups. They play every night. Big games with real stakes, with legacies at stake, with so many storylines. I'm pumped about it. If the NBA is not for you, that's fine. I get it. Obviously, there's way more NFL casual fans running around. But this is the time of year where, we can finally turn the page from these awful conversations about tanking. That stuff will all be done. And you're going to see teams go all out for the next 2 months to try to win an NBA championship. And we are very fortunate in Cleveland that we've got one of those teams that's going to be trying to do that.
Is there anybody in this organization that's untouchable from the pressure that starts on Saturday? That and whether to give the greatest Cleveland Brown ever a trade, the greatest Cleveland Brown since 1999. Thank you. Whether or not to trade him or whether or not to give him a raise. That's a serious question we have to ask you in the next 20 minutes. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, and I got to ask you that question about pressure and who's actually untouchable on this team coming up in 5 on The Fan.
Anthony Lima.
headline sports news every 20 minutes right here on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Jeff Thomas.
There's only one place to hear breaking Browns news. This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns, 92.3 The Fan.
Who was the guy? Ray Finkel. And the words of Ray Finkel.
Lois Einhorn.
Who ended up being Lois Einhorn. What do you know about pressure? It's a hell of a lead up to it. Here's Zach Lowe on the pressure that's on the Cleveland Cavaliers and who might have the most pressure on them. I think from a national perspective, and Zach Lowe from the Ringer as a national guy, I think I agree.
I just think he's had a fascinating career. He's made the playoffs every year of his career and has never made the conference finals. And it's not on him. People say like he's never made the conference finals. His teams have never made the conference finals. He's had some great series. He's had some clunkers. His teams, particularly in Utah, both Utah and Cleveland have had some like pretty epic flameouts. Donovan Mitchell's the guy I trust the most of Cleveland's best players. Like I expect him to be great in the playoffs. He's been great in the playoffs. He's been at times like the only Cavalier you felt you could count on in the playoffs. But it's just like I kind of want to see him make a run longer than he's been because he's been such a consistently great player. And it's a crossroads pick for me also because if they disappoint in the playoffs again, they've already traded one of these guys. I just don't, he's not a flight risk anytime soon. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like there just comes a point, if you just lose too many times too early in the playoffs for what your pedigree should be, it just starts to go sideways a little bit. And I think Cleveland is kind of nearing that point. And Donovan Mitchell, I want to see a deeper playoff run. That's all.
I also think if it doesn't happen this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on another team next year. I think we both agree if something bad happens to this team in one of the first two rounds, I'm prepared for any outcome with any guy in that roster.
Audio courtesy of the Ringer.
So I heard all of that. I pulled up his game log. Donovan Mitchell. You're familiar with him. He's been in the playoffs before.
Yeah. Who's that?
Donovan Mitchell.
Does he play for the Browns?
Another chance to
Could Donovan Mitchell play for the Browns? 21647. I'm
look
just
at his
doing
physique,
what I'm accused of.
I
That's
absolutely
all.
think he could have
he
been.
could absolutely play for the Browns.
Could he be a running back?
How tall is he?
Is he too tall for a
no,
running
he'd be
back?
a safety. So, no, he's fast enough to be a corner.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, he's 6'4", right?
No, he's like 6'2".
Oh, he's 6'. Yeah, be a wide receiver. Would Donovan Mitchell be better than Cedric Tillman right now? I'm actually going down a terrible rabbit hole.
All right.
Would he be better than Jerry Jeudy right now? 216-474.
All right, here are some of his games, just to name a few. 38 points. These are playoff games. 50 points, 30, 39, 33, 33, 30, 30, 33, 48, 43, 35. Like, this guy is a monster in the playoffs. We talk about the difference between the regular season and the NBA playoffs is that certain guys shrink come playoff time. And hey, let's be fair. That's been what people have said about James Harden in some of the biggest games, even though James has a slew of monster games and monster series as well in the playoffs. But Donovan Mitchell, he is a playoff riser. Every team hopes to have Donovan Mitchell's when it gets to the postseason. It's their only chance. You need guys that either can maintain their status quo or elevate from there.
Yeah.
Donovan's done it. The problem is, Donovan has had to do it to absurd levels. And last year, because of the injuries, because you lost DeAndre Hunter after that first game in the semifinals against Indiana, because Darius Garland was limping around, and because Evan Mobley had to leave the series and even miss game. Like, not to mention Jared Allen when he was playing with had the rib injury against the Knicks a few years ago. Like, Donovan has had to do so much. And the whole point of this is you've got to have help. And they couldn't rely on Darius, so they went and traded for Harden, who's always available. He's going to be there.
He plays, man.
And he plays. So they
can't call him street clothes.
They feel like they have a better shot this year. And looking at the setup, they do. They do. To play Toronto in the first round, and now they are not going to be full strength because of their point guard's injury. And then Detroit in the second round, Cade Cunningham coming off the collapsed lung, even though they played exceptional regular season ball. They do not have postseason success. So this is cultivated perfect for them to have this run that we all wanted to have.
I think nationally, and I think maybe some Cavs fans, well, let me gauge the interest here. Let me take the temperature. I think a lot of Cavs fans might get annoyed by the conversation about Donovan Mitchell. I think nationally he is the number one point of conversation about the Cleveland Cavaliers and the pressure that's on the Cavs, because we've talked about Donovan Mitchell and whether or not he's a number one on a basketball team, whether he's the guy that makes everything go around him on an NBA team. I think this or next year is his last chance. I think after this, if he were to want out, I think that you have to be a passenger. You can ride shotgun with somebody else, but I think that's where he's at. I want to know, though, in Cleveland. Now, you're giving me a weird look here. I want to know in Cleveland if he's untouchable, because I think me saying that is going to bother a lot of Cavs fans. I think when Cavs fans think about who has pressure on them, I think they're thinking of Cavs fans. I'm talking locally here. I think they're thinking of Evan. I think they might be thinking of Jared Allen. I think they might be thinking of James Harden because he just got traded for. Kenny, Kobe, everybody else. I don't know if Donovan's in that level. Now, if things don't go well, yeah, you'll probably hear some rumors, some innuendo, and I think that some fans might go, you know what, the hell with it, get out of here, you ain't done nothing with us anyway. Now, I don't want to go that far. I want them to get the Eastern Conference Finals at least, and we'll see where it goes. But I think as of right now, I don't think Donovan's the right answer for a local fan. I think it's everybody else. I just want to know if he's untouchable, if he's past that criticism, because I find it hard to criticize him. Being a person who's going to watch the Cavs first before anybody else, if I'm comparing him to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, if I'm comparing him to to a Jaylen Brown, to a Jason Tatum, yeah, I think Jaylen Brown can lead a basketball team by himself. I think Jason Tatum, I really don't think he's as capable of it as Jaylen Brown, but I think Jason Tatum can do it. They're an embarrassment of riches there. We've seen James try, can't do it. Evan, I don't know if he's ever going to get there, and I think that's where we're critical of Evan. When it comes to Donovan, this is an unquestioned leader, unlike anything we've seen since you-know-who, LeBron. And I want to ask, is he untouchable to fans out there where it's almost heresy to hear someone in Cleveland be critical of Donovan in this spot? Because there's been only, I can think of one clunker game off the top of my head. I mean, you just brought up stats. I can only think of like one clunker game off the top of my head that we've had with Donovan in the postseason, and then I think he immediately followed that one up. I think our question was with Donovan, how do you not be so ball dominant? How do you mix it up with Darius Garland? Well, Darius isn't there anymore, so hopefully that helps take care of it. Plus, I think there's going to be more trust already with James Harden.
How do you conserve some of that energy and make sure that you can be ready for a lengthy playoff run if they could be fortunate enough to make that happen? Because we've seen Donovan has been on fumes at the end of these playoffs because he's had to put up 40. He's had to put up 50. And that never is a good formula to make a deep run. Like, you shouldn't need Donovan Mitchell against Toronto to have to put up 30, 35, 40 every game.
No.
He's capable of it,
shouldn't.
But you shouldn't need it.
And that's part of the reason I think, like, man, I stress, I don't find Donovan's under pressure because he's the number one guy here. And so we're not going to get anywhere without Donovan. But it's not to me, it's not put up or shut up with Donovan. It's not. And the only one I think it might be put up or shut up with, and the guy doesn't speak at all, basically, is Evan Mobley. And that's just because I've been singing his praises for 5 years. So when it comes to Donovan, I just think that he is so trusted that you just pointed out he's been on fumes because he's had to carry this team. Well, hopefully that's going to change with James Harden. He's probably the second greatest Cavalier to play for the Cavs, other than LeBron.
Yeah, I mean,
you could make a Kyrie argument if you want to, but he's already there.
But we're getting there. We're getting there where it's a legitimate discussion,
understood.
And I could totally understand. Because Kyrie was never the best player on any of those teams. Donovan's been the best player.
And so I think that's the difference between our world and the national perspective of the Cavs and the national perspective of Donovan. Donovan is compared with his peers. Here, the only comparison we actually make is with LeBron or Kyrie or Mark Price or whoever. Like, that's the comparison we make with ghosts. But he currently plays. I can't see a scenario where Donovan's going to pout. Donovan's going to have a terrible game. Donovan's then going to turn around. Like, I don't know. If you make the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't think it's going to happen this way. I don't think a lot of fans are going to be calling for him to be ousted or moved on from, and that this isn't working. Now, they might say something about Evan or even Harden or somebody else, but I don't think they're going to say it about Donovan. I think he's almost untouchable to fans.
But here's the reality: is even if he pours it all out there on the court and has these mammoth games and they fall short in the second round, okay, there's only so many ways you can improve the team. I mean, the Cavs have the 29th pick in the draft this year, I think it is. Or that's where they're slotted right now. So it's not like they can go to the draft to improve. They're over the cap. They're the only team in the second apron. So they would have to shed so much salary. So you'd have to lose guys to try to bring someone in. I know we've talked about LeBron and all of that. We'll have that discussion on a different day about his final year. So the only other way to pivot and to try to improve the team is going to be and this is hypothetically. It might not actually improve the team. I mean, we'll get into these discussions, but it'll be a trade for Giannis or maybe even Zion. Like, those will be the things that'll be discussed, because just running it back, the only way you could see this changing is for Evan Mobley to become the best player on the team.
Any of these conversations about the Cavs are brought to you by the fine folks at Surfside Hard Iced Tea, who ask you to please enjoy that hard iced tea responsibly.
I think you guys are underselling Evan Mobley. I think he's ready. I think this is the season.
I think guys are ready, mentally, physically. We're getting there, so it's right around the corner, and we got to be as ready as possible for this run.
It's tough as hell, boy.
Sheriff's in town.
No, you guys make fun. You seen his improvement since the All-Star break?
I've seen it, and I've heard it.
It's kind of like a test a little bit. We might see him in the postseason real soon, so trying to feel them out, see what their tendencies are, see how they play, and they're probably not showing their full hand, but we aren't either, and I think this was just a good test.
Oh, easy there, hard ass.
You never show the ace up your sleeve.
Whoa. Big iron over here.
Okay.
What?
First of all,
tough talking.
Like, whoever's trying to do the poor man's
hard ass Evan,
ecstasy of gold, good, the bad, and the ugly.
At first, I thought it sounded like something else.
Like, come on. How can you do that? How is that okay? Anyway, second of all, here are
it's
the
called
numbers.
Western Twilight.
Is that what it is?
It's called.
It's called not getting a suit.
You know what else it's
That's
called?
That's what it's called.
Hard ass
Hey,
Evan Mobley.
These tests are needed. That's what we've been saying all year. Our guys was out. It wasn't the best season to start, and everyone was kind of panicking, but the test early helped us now, and I think we're in a good spot right now, and we just got to keep it going.
Hey, what is it you do for a living? Well, you see, I listen to all the great composers, and then I copy them and issue a very, very poor man's version, pennies on the dollar, and then I sell it to the radio stations so that it can sound something like the ones that would actually get them sued. Anyway.
I mean, we got to what was working. I just finished the plays, and defensively we got some stops, and that put them away.
Toughest man in Cleveland's talking, pal.
Before the All-Star break, 51% from the field. After the All-Star break, 61% from the field. And
make Sheriff Andy look like a punk.
That deserves a little Western Twilight.
Do you know the dog that runs through the graveyard? That was not planned.
No,
just got
really?
loose on the set.
Really?
That's right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, at the beginning of what was the grave name?
I don't remember.
Art something. Anyway, he's gotten rid of the bad shots. Those 3-pointers, he's taking them
He's
out.
only got good shots right to the head at high noon.
That's right. And he's playing that better defense.
Well, I think we've already been talking about that for a minute, so we're all on the same page. We're all talking about it. We're all working at it, and we're going to get better at it.
Arch Stanton. That's where the gold allegedly was. Arch Stanton. I love that movie, Ken.
You like a lot of old westerns.
Part of a trilogy. Did you know that?
They scare the absolute pants off of Clint Eastwood over there. Oh, boy. All right. Are we done playing the Evan Mobley? Hey, nothing's going to get you going like some Evan Mobley hard-ass talk, I'll tell you that.
You guys don't believe it. He's been a different player since the All-Star break.
I didn't say he was bad. No one said he was playing poorly.
And since he bounced back from that calf injury.
Yeah.
Getting more and more minutes out there and feeling more and more comfortable, and shots starting to fall more and more. So it's definitely catching my rhythm, and it's just going to keep going up.
It's like Mel Gibson in Payback after he gets the bullets taken out of him. Don't play any Mel Gibson now.
Is that the
there's one specific.
Is that the same sound effect from Cleveland Browns Locked Up? I watched every episode of that show. We never used any of it online. On the show.
That was a Mitch problem. That was gold. Lima would call me up and cuss me out over something I had no control of.
I love the show. You saw Cleveland's own getting arrested at a Browns game.
And he called me up in the middle of the afternoon.
They're playing the clips on the afternoon show, and what the F is Mitch doing?
Why isn't he playing these? Because he had to be quiet, remember, because his kids are trying to take a nap. They're not playing these effing clips.
And then I wanted to revisit.
They'll remind you when you call Lima on the phone.
I wanted to revisit with the people that had gotten arrested and have them on the air and talk about the experience of how much fun it is being a Browns fan.
That's what Evan Mobley does in the offseason. He rounds them all up over at Huntington Bank Field.
Oh, he's like Shaq when he was going through his second act.
Says, get your ass in. It's Shaq, Steven Seagal, and Evan Mobley. That's Brown security, bud. Mark that for you.
What world power is Evan Mobley going to help?
Wasn't there that show about Steven Seagal in a parish or something like that?
Well, he's a cop.
I thought he was Putin's buddy now.
What?
Steven Seagal, wasn't he?
I got to go Googling. I don't know if I want to go down that road, to be honest with you. All right. Tough talking Evan Mobley. That's not a tease. I don't know what I'm saying there. It's just, yeah. There's a sheriff in town. His name's Evan Mobley. I hope you're right. Speaking of right, it's the right message for Browns fans, but it comes from the wrong person. You're going to like what you hear until I tell you who told you. Ken Carman, Anthony Lima, that and 5 on the Fan.
South Season 5, an Odyssey podcast. Available now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your shows.
When you want the latest on the Cavs, we're the station you turn to first. 92.3 The Fan is Cleveland's home for breaking sports news. Your teams, your station.
All right, welcome back to the show. If you missed our earlier major programming announcement, mornings will never be the same.
Thomas!
For 92.3 The Fan, Jeff Thomas will kickstart our day at 5 a.m. When does it start?
Monday.
On Monday.
Monday.
You get a Cavs playoff game on Saturday. You get NBA playoff games Sunday night. So if you miss them, if you miss the West Coast games, he'll have all that stuff for you at 5 a.m.
Now,
you better bet your ass. Jeff Thomas.
Jeff is an old school consummate radio professional.
Silver Sow Award winner.
So many Silver Sows. It's hard to keep track.
How many are there?
His Wikipedia page doesn't even have an accurate reflection.
They run off the page. You go into his house, it's like the Boston Garden.
It's insane. A whole trophy room. I didn't even know he had enough trophies to constitute a trophy room.
That too.
Either way, he's going to have a very tight hour, right? It's going to be very orderly, no nonsense, right to the point from the mind of Jeff Thomas. But yet I have a feeling the two of us might have to mess with his plans a little bit.
I'm not going to mess with his plans at all. I'm getting ready for our show. I'm not messing around with Jeff's.
Oh, I think we're going to have some fun.
No. This is, first off, this is a good thing for everybody because this is a better lead-in for us. And I'm not going to go, oh, boy, there's a lot I wish I could say, but I know that Barrett Sports Media is listening right now. I ain't going to say a damn word. I ain't saying nothing that's going to end me in an office. I'll say that at another time. I will say it at some point. I'm just not going to say it right now. I want to badly. It's just, you know what? Jeff's going to be a real great lead-in for us at 6 a.m. That's all I'm going to say right now. You can read into that however you want. Because Jeff knows what the hell he's doing, and he knows what Cleveland sports fans want to hear about. Maybe Cleveland sports fans don't want to hear that much about Jeff right now. Maybe they want to hear more about the future of their football team.
I'm sure they want to hear more from this clip that you're setting up and the names mentioned.
Well, you are going to like what you hear, but you are not going to like who tells you this.
If I was in the decision-making chair of who should be my starter, when we start in OTAs and we go to our first mandatory minicamp, I'm starting Shedeur Sanders. And the reason is a lot of people will talk about his stats and, hey, he threw more interceptions and touchdowns and his EPA this and his EPA that and this was bad. Well, what they did with him at quarterback was they won games. And that, to me, is one of the most important things for the quarterback position. When you step into the huddle, when you step on the field, do you believe that you have a chance to win with the guy that is in the huddle with you at quarterback? And the Cleveland Browns locker room believes they can win with Shedeur Sanders. That they don't believe they can win with Deshaun Watson. They don't believe that they can win with Dylan Gabriel. And that, to me, says this should be the guy, and it's his job to lose at that point. I know they're paying Deshaun Watson a boatload of money. But at the end of the day, he has not looked like the guy that they got from the Houston Texans for a number of reasons. And when you're talking about a young man who's dealt with the pressure, who had all the odds stacked against him last year, no reps basically in the preseason, didn't get any first-team reps before he became a starter. Before the week he became a starter, he wasn't even throwing to guys like Jerry Jeudy. So I think Shedeur Sanders should be that starter. He has the mental makeup, the confidence to get it done.
Outstanding message. That audio is from Yahoo Sports Daily. Great message. Do you know who the messenger is?
Who that was?
Yeah.
The RG3?
Well, I didn't know you knew that, but okay, fine. Yeah, it's Robert Griffin III.
Sounded just like him.
I think he has a pretty distinct voice.
Played quarterback here.
He did. And he got really mad at me when I asked about...
Yeah, he did. That was awesome.
About some things in his career.
I loved it, and I wish you asked him again. I think you like that message. I just don't think a lot of fans like the messenger because they think of Robert Griffin III playing quarterback poorly for us at the time. But let me point this out. Just because you played quarterback for the Browns, you weren't that great at it doesn't mean you can't talk Browns football, for crying out loud. I mean, we've had Brady Quinn on before, and Brady's a great guest. We've had Brian Hoyer on before, and Brian played quarterback pretty damn well for the Cleveland Browns. Just obviously we had drafted somebody else at the time, and Brian's obviously a great guest talking about it. I think what he says is something that a lot of Browns fans hope. And I wanted to play it because there's so many damn people out there who are from the national perspective saying Shedeur ain't going to win this job, including Ian Rappaport on Rich Eisen's show.
My guess is Deshaun Watson. But that's money talks, right? No, because the money's paid already. That's different. You did have to pay him years ago to get him, but that money's paid.
Right.
Here's why. Here's my argument. When he's been healthy, he's been for sure good enough to be a starter. And there are games when he broke his shoulder. Was that 2 years ago? 2 years ago, right? When he broke his shoulder.
Yeah.
He led the team back from a comeback, on a comeback, and was like, all right, this guy's really starting to play well.
Right. Then he got hurt again.
You're
right.
So I don't know, are these freak things? Who knows? But if healthy, I think he gives them the best chance to win. Now, it'll be a competition, but that's what I think.
But money does talk. I mean, if you've paid him all this, and you got him for at least another year, you might as well get something for your money.
I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Rich Eisen when I say this. And I know they usually say that before you're about to say something disrespectful. That's not the case. He's just the latest in line to say this. Lima, you know the Browns. You know the Browns and the Haslam's well. I know the Browns and the Haslam's well. A lot of fans know the Browns and the Haslam's, or they know the Browns and the Haslam's well. They think maybe they don't, but they do. Because in so many ways, you're a lot like them. Money is not the object here. Anybody who's been in that organization, who has worked for that organization, has been around that organization, they will tell you if they think it's going to help, they'll spend the money. They do not care about spending money. If this were Mike Brown and we were in Cincinnati on 1530 talking Bengals, yep, if Mike Brown would have traded for Deshaun Watson, he will have Deshaun Watson parking cars for $46 million. He will do everything he can to get an honest day's work out of Deshaun Watson. It's Mike Brown we're talking about here. When it was the late, great Al Davis might have done that. And Al Davis was a guy who would spend some money, but damn it, he demanded. The Browns, they will spend anything. I don't think the money is not the issue here. You spent the money. It's exactly as Rappaport says. The money's already spent. This is where I'm nervous about it because it would be easy to just go, well, he's getting paid $46 million. He should be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. That's the easy out to all this. It is not that easy because it would be easy for me to just throw up my hands and go, well, you're paying him all that money. He's going to end up playing for you. No. It's more about what Robert Griffin III said. Because I can't guarantee what Robert Griffin III said is real. I saw the Jerry Jeudy post just like everybody else did. I've seen the other guys maybe working out with Deshaun. There is a relationship there with some of the guys there. They're going to go with whoever they think helps them win football games. Now, I think they're going to look at Shedeur Sanders and go, you were in the locker room with us. This guy was nowhere to be found over the last calendar year, for crying out loud. And you're allowed to come around the organization all you want if you're a good standing member of the organization, which last year he was just injured. You're allowed to be there all you want. You didn't show up till the end of the year. Shedeur was there from the beginning. So I hope, yes, I want Shedeur Sanders to win the job. I hope that carries over. But money's not going to be the issue here. If Shedeur Sanders is a little bit better and Shedeur Sanders happens to make $45 million less than Deshaun Watson this year, they're going to play Shedeur Sanders. Ownership will want to play Shedeur Sanders.
But do you buy what RG3 said, that the locker room is behind Shedeur?
That I'm not sure of. I hope he's got sources. I hope he's right about that. I can't guarantee that.
Shedeur did not play remotely well enough to get locker room support. He played
well. Again, I go back to
his last two games. They won. He was awful.
Jerry Jeudy's known as a bit of a malcontent. Obviously, when I see that post on social media of them working out, I go, I think Jerry Jeudy's sending a message. I really do, and it bothers me. And hopefully, I'm just being a little bit too paranoid. Maybe I'm just being a little bit too paranoid for everybody. This time of year tends to throw you off. And we've got a lot of Cavs, got some Guardians, obviously, and all we can do is speculate about this team that's getting ready to make major draft picks in just over a week. But when you look at this job, I keep hearing money for Deshaun Watson. That's not it. That's too easy. It would be too easy to just hand him over the job because of the money. And in a lot of organizations, that would be the reason he gets the crack at it. That is not the reason he gets the crack at it here. They don't care. They do not care about the money's, as Ian Rappaport so succinctly put it, The money is already spent. They do not care about that. What they care about is thinking that they can find the best version of whatever quarterback that they can find out of Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders. So that means it's even scarier for everybody because now you look at it and go, which one's the better quarterback? Because they will tell you straight up. They're not going to play this guy just because of the money that they own. That's too convenient of an excuse for anybody else. They will play Deshaun Watson to start quarterback this year if they feel he's a better QB. And they know how much the fans don't want to see that guy play, but they're going to give Todd Monken a crack at doing this the right way. And Todd Monken's job is what? Not to answer to me, not to answer to Tone, not to answer to any fan out there. He's got to answer to the other 52 on the roster. So with the voluntary workouts have started and then the OTAs get going on and all the other stuff, we're going to find out very quickly. It's going to be merit-based. It's not going to be based on money. They do not operate like that. This is a team that once paid $16 million for a second-round draft pick and kicked the guy to the curb for the quote-unquote greater good of the franchise. They could have had that guy play. They could have had that guy play, and he probably would have played better than what they ran out there that season. $16 million, bye-bye. Because they felt that they were doing something for the greater good. Money is not an object, which makes it dangerous in some ways, but you're going to get an honest look at this. And if Deshaun Watson ends up coming out on top, I guess I'm going to have to trust Todd Monken as much as it's going to bother me. 216-474-0092. A raise or trade? Ken Carman, Anthony Lima. Oh, yeah. Plus, we got a playoff game coming up on Saturday. Live on the Fan.
auto insurance business. Rates will vary by several factors, including how you purchase the policy. Potential savings vary. Allstate North American Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
With the first pick, the build-up to the NFL Draft is here. And we're on top of the latest news and rumors ahead of Round 1 on April 23rd. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
It's been a big show today. Got to talk about my love for Mrs. Met. Favorite sports mascot that's not Slider.
I think it shows how open-minded you are, which I think people appreciate.
Yeah. People are like, Ken, who do you follow on social media? You follow? I'm like, well, I follow Mrs. Met. Oh, you follow Sarah J? No, I don't follow her. No, I follow Mrs. Met. Cavaliers got a postseason series starting on Saturday. What? What do you want to say?
Dynamite transition.
Thank you very much. Postseason series starts on Saturday, first round. Is there going to be a time like this? I heard some conversation. Like, was Wendy warning about a game one loss on ESPN the other day? Was he warning about a game one loss with the Cavs?
Yes.
To the Toronto Raptors.
The fact that, a week layoff, the afternoon game.
You got to beat the hell out of that team on Saturday.
Easing into the playoffs.
You got to beat the hell out of that team on Saturday. They got to beat them by 20. And if they beat them by 4 or they beat them by 1, I'll be fine with it. Don't get me wrong. But, man, I don't care. Guys, we don't go to the playoffs much. And maybe I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it. We're just going to be talking to ourselves. I'm whooping it up on Friday. Okay? We're going to get excited on this show. We're going to whoop it up because I'm not feeling it. Guys, I'm telling you right now, we have just over one more calendar year to make this thing work. Because come hell or high water, we're going back to terrible land. We're going back to 17 wins. We're going back to nobody cares. We're going back to people looking up rosters. We're going back to the most hardcore basketball fans being the ones that watch the Cavs. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. You are not, I understand that you played the Wizards the other day. You're not that far off from the future.
You think Dan Gilbert's going to allow that to happen?
I hope not. I'm happy we have a bold owner, and I hope that if they win a championship here this year or next year, maybe Donovan will stay. Maybe they don't want to mix it up, but there's bound to be some changes. And I'm just like, guys, we got to understand here, and maybe they're just taking the cue. I'm gonna blame you in a way I don't mean to, but I will. Like where you've always been, you keep your expectations low, then you could always be pleasantly surprised. And I think their expectations are not high. And for a multitude of reasons, maybe it just be because you've set this thing up your way. You haven't went out and beat everybody. So when you start manipulating things to figure out an easier route, people don't get very encouraged by that.
Which in the end, they really didn't do. Like, they really didn't. It wasn't like for a month they had to play a certain way. Like, they won a lot of their games.
And I do think, this is a weird thing. You look at the Browns, right? The Browns quarterback, you drafted Shedeur Sanders, but not a lot of people are big. Go with me on this. There's a lot of Browns fans who are like, yeah, I don't mind him. He's a fine enough kid, but I don't think he's going to be the long-term starting quarterback. Like, I'd have to admit I'm one of them, right? I wrote down all the quarterbacks for 2027 for a reason. And I think he's a fine young man. I was a huge fan of his father. Did you see the attendance at the spring game in Colorado?
What is going on with Colorado football?
Holy potatoes.
And do they even have a strength and conditioning program?
They went from 47,000 3 years ago to 17 at the spring game.
Did you see how small their dudes were?
If you're recruiting guys from high school, they're not going to be very big. I told you, man, that the size of the dudes, maybe that's a podcast thing. I don't know what the hell's going on. Anyway, not to get sidetracked. But the players on the team, you can't bring up Myles Garrett without wondering, how long is he going to be here? The whole text you got about June yesterday and that whole thing threw some people. I heard Nick and Jonathan weren't very happy about you sharing text or us talking about text or something like that on the radio. There's something about them being upset that you get text and I get text and they don't. I don't know. That's up to their show to figure out. Hearing all that stuff, there's not a whole lot of positivity there. With the Cavs, you traded for Donovan, you traded for James Harden. even though Darius Garland was a guy who I thought was at the crossroads with a lot of fans loved him because you drafted him. You drafted him high. You don't hear it with the Guardians because it's all homegrown for the most part. I mean, Austin Hedges feels like he's a part of the fabric of this organization through and through, even though he didn't start out here, but he just feels like, man, he's a part of this team. The guys you have are young. The leader of your team is an iconic Cleveland figure that will go down as one of the most beloved sports figures of all time in this city's history. And so there's not a lot of trust there. And when you make moves to win championships, I think to some people, it feels like you've taken away from their soul a little bit. When you get drafted, like Oklahoma City's got to be a hoot because they're all drafted. You get these guys, they're all drafted, and at some point that's going to end too. I understand that. But you have this fun run of this drafted team that's amazing. And for us, it's like, yeah, we drafted guys and we had to make some bold moves. And it feels a little bit, I've gotten the word mercenary sent to me a couple times. It does feel a little bit that way to some people. I don't want to feel that way. I think that this is the price of doing business in the NBA. They wear a Cavs uniform. Donovan Mitchell's a good guy. So I obviously like Donovan Mitchell. I don't think any of them are really bad guys, to be honest with you. So I don't find anything to root against or to be cynical of, but there seems to be plenty of folks who are that way.
All I heard from a weird segment of the Cavs fan base was just how many of the Cavaliers' seasons and games with LeBron James so drama-filled. All these divas.
But remember...
Now we don't have any of that on the Cavs. And now you don't want this? What do you guys want? Or are you just complaining to complain?
Well, maybe some of them are. Maybe some of them are. I mean, I'm a professional complainer, and sometimes I'm not happy unless I'm complaining. I know my foibles. But I think that, remember, that LeBron is from here. So LeBron always feels like a Northeast Ohioan, even when he's not playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So if they go out and they get LeBron again, it's just going to be this homecoming, and I think a lot of people are going to feel good about it, even though it would be a mercenary move if you lose in the Eastern Conference Finals and you bring LeBron back here or whatever. It's still going to feel like it's a hometown guy because he is a hometown guy. Akron, Northeast Ohio. So you're still a home area guy.
You mentioned, style points, whether that's going to be an issue. I think this is a very lopsided matchup.
I hope so.
And the only reason people don't feel that way at all or anybody's scared is because you haven't seen the Cavs healthy. But they are as healthy as Danny Cunningham came on earlier in the show. They're as healthy as they've been all year. So what a perfect management of that situation that they could get that way. And I look at the experience difference coming up in the playoffs. James Harden has almost 3 times as much playoff experience than the entire Raptors 9-man rotation, of which their starting point guard and probably their best perimeter defender is not going to be able to play in game 1 most likely. So good luck, Toronto.
I hate talking about worry. I'm not worried about them, but if you don't win by a lot on Saturday, I think on Monday morning you're going to get a couple of calls that you are not going to like.
Yeah,
they're not going to be convinced.
And you know what? That'll be consistent with people that, Kenny, don't know ball. The types of people, it's a good weed out. If you hear anybody saying the Cavs didn't win by enough points on Monday after Saturday's game, chalk it up. It's a great weed out. Did you just uncover
a new segment?
It's a great weed out. They don't know ball.
Did you just uncover a new segment called You Don't Know Ball?
I think so. Ball knower, ball knower, ball knower, ball knower, ball knower,
Lots of ball
knowledge.
Lots of knowledge here. I was going to go right to the podcast and go record that and let you get the hell out of here, but now we got to have a meeting over this because I like where your head's at.
I am a Cavs fan. I root for my hometown team.
Hopefully it doesn't get stolen by another show that listens to our every word. No, I'm not talking about Nick. Have a wonderful day, friends. Go Guardians. Hey, sounds good.
Where's your entourage now?
Cool, I got on the last show.
Oh!